Hello everyone. Should be live, and wow, great start, John. Basically, well, how do I even put this? Jesus, Maz has instead decided to come over to our house to join us or join me for this one. So instead of doing this via the interwebs, we're doing this literally from my PC. So let me know if the mic quality is all good and all that. I'm gonna have to play around with it because this is the first time I've done one of these where I'm literally talking to my interviewee in the same room. So first of all, Maz, is an absolute pleasure. So first of all, thank you for joining me.
You're most welcome.
So some people, someone, I'm not going to name them, said that they've never heard your voice before, but in reality,
Really?
you have talked before.
Oh yeah, many times on the Q&A.
So yeah, you might hear the PC a bit, and I do apologise. I don't know what I can do about that. My PC is just being a sound hog. So yeah, I would put the camera on, but I'm actually not going to out of respect for Maz, and I actually want to get onto the topic of anonymity. It's probably how you don't pronounce it, but this
Anonymity.
is me. Thank you. So before we kind of go into you and essentially your life at Jagex, before Jagex and after Jagex, you for basically 15 years at your time in what you did never revealed your face or you as a person. So, if you don't mind me asking, why is that?
Well, to begin with, it was just there was no opportunity. Back in the day, there really wasn't any social media or anything like that. But when social media rolled around, it turned out I had a real phobia of cameras, so I stayed off camera. But mainly, it's due to really be wanting to be known for my work and what I do and how that affects people, rather than me for me. I don't want to be famous. I want my work to be famous.
Nice. I like that. Instead of someone like me who makes weird faces at a camera and all that jazz that comes with it. So, I mean, I think it's an interesting topic because to me, and by the way, Dean, it's lovely to see you. Do you know
Hi, Dean.
one thing I regret more than anything is that I never got to work on RuneScape when Dean was there.
Really?
Like, unfortunately, he just left when I was getting ready to join RuneScape.
Did you never experience a Dean rage?
I could hear him from a floor up.
Oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
But no, I mean, it's I wish I could have spoken to like Dean and worked with him a bit on RuneScape. But it's nice to see Dean in here, and actually he said that wait for my question, mate. Mwahahaha.
Oh dear.
So I don't know what Dean's gonna ask you. So yeah, let's go into it. And as a FYI again for everyone, I do apologise for my PC sound, but hopefully it's not too much of a problem. Hopefully our voices go through that, and there's not much I can do about that. So I do apologise.
Well, before we get into the questions, I have a few things for you.
Okay, so I just want to clarify, this is the first time I've ever done a stream, which is essentially a podcast. There is no camera, and Maz brought some stuff over, so I'm going to have to try and describe these things. Okay, that's chocolate. Yep, that's dark chocolate buttons. Cool. Yeah, someone said bet she hands him chocolate. Someone got that right off the bat.
You got choice.
You brought me Posh Pop. Oh man, see, I've got a choice, but I know it's which one my wife's gonna have.
You've got to just choose.
She's gonna go with this one. So to explain what's happening right now, I've just been given a plum and cherry Posh Pop drink by Maz. And it feels weird describing it, because normally I have a camera and I go, oh, look at this, do it for me.
This is radio, Shauny.
Oh dear, I need to change Moobot.
Oh, definitely, I am not rich.
Yeah, damn Moobot. Blame me, it's my bad. So let me change Moobot. So yeah, Maz just decided to bring some stuff over since we're here. We're going to be chatting. We don't have a time limit. Well, we do have a time limit, it's 4 hours, because Maz wants to run the stream until midnight. It may end before, but it's all about the natural flow of it. So we'll just see how it goes. But before we get stuck in, let me just tweak the timer. So bear with me a second here.
Who made the painting? That was Presleek.
Yeah.
She was absolutely awesome and put it together on like 2 hours' notice.
And you asked her. I didn't even know you were doing this. I didn't even know this was going to be a thing, but you decided to just ask her and she just did it.
Yep.
Right. That's
well, I paid her for it, but it was a commission. But the fact that
did you actually pay her?
Yeah,
You paid her for this stream?
She's an artist.
Wow.
You pay artists for their work. But yeah, the fact that she produced it that quickly, I was quite impressed with.
I mean, I just love the fact there's an Ed and Eddie reference on the top. If you want to be like my favorite cartoon of all time. So the fact that you like that she's done that, it's amazing. But hey, do you know what? Fair play. Like That's awesome. I didn't realize you commissioned her, so that's amazing. Okay. Should we jump into like you actually had a life before Jagex?
I did. I did. There was life before Jagex.
So, talk to me, Maz. As a person before Jagex, how was life? What did you get up to before Jagex?
Life was pretty unique for me because I kind of skipped all the regular things that people do. I was taught at home. I didn't go to school.
Wow.
I had a tutor for English and art and music. I had a correspondence course for physics, and I taught myself maths.
You taught yourself maths?
Yes. Mum just bought the books, and I taught myself maths.
So, any advice for anyone who wants to do that, or is it just book reading, as it were?
Just play with it. I seem to have a naturally mathematical brain. I went to school for about a year in primary school, and when they were teaching us sort of addition and subtraction, I was going home and learning long division and multiplication. You know, I was bored with what was going on at school. So yeah, I did that. Went back into the education system for just sixth form, so 2 years of college between 16 and 18. Whilst I was there, I got involved with the IT team, which involved just one person actually, just the IT tech, and I helped him out. And by the end of sixth form, they basically offered me a job because they couldn't do without me. So that's where I started.
What did you do?
So sysadmin, so building network computers, running the network, dealing with the users, being support, all that kind of thing.
So that explains so much about like the tech side of things, because obviously.
And blocking the kids at school from playing RuneScape.
What? No way! You're joking me.
No, I'm not.
You actually block people from playing RuneScape.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's incredible. Okay, the sound shouldn't cut out a little bit. I've just tweaked the audio a little bit. We should be okay now. You actually stop people playing RuneScape?
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
It is.
Well, not bizarre. I mean, I kind of get it. But
it's kind of ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Ironic. The irony behind it is unbelievable. So you go from there.
So from there, finished with that job and ended up in Cambridge with a bunch of friends. And that bunch of friends was slowly subsumed by Jagex. So one after the other, we all got jobs at Jagex.
Same areas or different?
Different areas. So there was a web dev, customer support, but I started in customer support. In fact, I was one of the first 3 women. We all walked in together on the trial day. We walked in and all the keyboards stopped. It was just like...
Well, completely male-dominated.
Yes. There was no females in the office.
Wow.
We had one female HR person part-time. That was it. So we walked in and all the keyboards stopped. It was like, wow, females.
Oh my goodness! Wow. I mean, that's fascinating. Like that in itself is fascinating in its own right. Because
that was way back. I mean, you know, things have changed a lot since then. But yeah, that was very much in the days when games were, you know, people sitting in their bedrooms creating games.
So you walk in. You mentioned obviously you and 2 other women walk in. You remember anything about that interview back then?
The actual interview, no, but there was a test. And we had to know about the game. And the very first question on the test, I do remember, was, what's the first thing you do on Tutorial Island? Do you know what it is, Shauny?
Isn't it talk to... it's talk?
No, first skilling activity.
You do woodcutting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done. You passed.
Yes! Thank God.
Well, it was because back in the day when... This was before we have with snapshots and password requests and things like that. Back in those days, there was also free text tickets where players could actually send in, you know, I'm stuck on such and such quest, you know, don't know what to do next. This is, you know, back in the days when the questions were awful. Like, go and speak to the man in the desert was one of the hints.
Just go speak to him.
Yes. So we had to answer these free text tickets. So we had to know about the game.
Okay, so I'm just going to do something very quickly here.
You can play with the audio.
Yes, which is the worst thing you can do in a live stream, but I'm going to turn off that. So you may hear the constant quietness, I hope, of my PC fans in the background, but there shouldn't be a mic cutting out now. Hopefully. So it's better than nothing, without me messing around with the noise gate constantly. So yeah, you'll have to deal with that, but we should be okay. Right, so...
Oh, we could just put the mic in Lyris's room. Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, we could.
Yeah.
I think she's asleep right now.
Has she actually gone to sleep?
Oh, she's actually gone to sleep. Good timing.
Oh, good timing.
So yeah, just a heads up for those who are just joining. We don't have a webcam, and simply because Maz has a phobia to cameras, and I'm respecting that for her. So no webcam. This is essentially a live podcast, as it were. So, you know...
It means you can listen to it while you drive.
You can just play... You can listen to it while you drive, listen to it while you play RuneScape or Old School. It's up to you. Like, whatever you want to do. Where were we? Yes, we talked about initially coming into...
yes.
Did you have to set up your PC? Because that was the thing
Oh,
back
yeah.
then.
So once I got the job, I walked in when I started, and it was a case of, there's the bits, build your PC. Luckily, having been in IT tech, I'd built hundreds of PCs, so it was not an issue for me.
Did you have to help anyone?
Yes.
On your first day?
Yes. It's quite funny because we only had one IT guy back in those days, so I actually helped him out as well.
Oh.
Because obviously I had all the knowledge, so I helped him. There was one point as well when we moved offices. I vividly remember building desks.
This is when
over
you went
the
from
weekend.
the Innovation Centre
to 140.
To 140.
There's a good story about that actually. I actually carried the web server across.
You carried a server across?
Yes, out of the rack. It was the web server. There was no other web servers. It was the web server for the entire game.
Oh my god, that's amazing. That just speaks to me of like classic old, like the old days of like how everything used to be. Because you can imagine that's never going to happen in this day and age. It's unbelievable. So, what year did you join?
Just seen a question in the chat there. When did I join Jagex? Very, very early 2005. February 2005, in fact.
So, obviously, 15 years now.
Yep.
Which is absolutely incredible. She held RuneScape in her hands for a few moments.
I've since held it in my hands many moments when uploading the game. Many scary moments.
Oh man, we'll get to that in many due time, because obviously in the 15 years, you've been involved in a lot of stuff. That's when you were a content developer. So the player support days, is there anything you want to touch on?
Player support days was interesting. It was shift work, and it was my first introduction to shift work. Staying awake around the sort of 2 a.m, 3 a.m. time was a challenge. We used to get sort of Red Bull and add in Pro Plus caffeine pills to it, and play loud music and do weird things in the office. We actually, I vividly remember the one evening where someone discovered for the very first time Urban Dictionary. Because they were on the bad names queue, so we'd have a bad names queue where bad names would be reported, and they're like, How is that a bad name? I'm not sure if I'm even allowed to say the words here, but what do you think, Sean?
I don't know what the words are. This is the problem.
Well, they're quite innocent words, which is why he was asking.
Oh, they're innocent words.
Pink sock.
Oh, okay.
So, of course, he Googled it and came up with Urban Dictionary, and for the rest of the evening, there was no work done. It was great. Yeah.
I see. Okay, that explains a lot.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, incredible. Wow. So shift work.
Yep.
How long were you at Player Support for?
About 9 months, just under 9 months.
So
So I basically, because Modmark was, well, as custom support back in those days, we would play through every release before it got released, so that we knew how to advise the customers on the tickets. We were also involved very much by Modmark to submit ideas, and I was always throwing ideas at him. He'll remember the billions of non-Christian Easter stuff I sent him when he asked for non-Christian Easter stuff, and I just sent him reams and reams of stuff. I basically threw ideas at him until a job came up, and he said, please apply for the job, with with the subtext of please apply because I'm getting sick of all these ideas and you can actually, come and create them.
I just want to give a quick note to anyone who would have just listened to what we just talked about prior to this. You probably do not want to Google it because I have a bad feeling things will happen if you Google it. FYI, in regards to that phrase.
Don't Google that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. I do realise me saying this is a little bit too late, but just an FYI for anyone listening back on this, I think is the best way to say it.
I did ask, to be fair. And they are two innocent words.
You did, actually.
Which is why he asked, because nobody knew until we actually Googled it.
So, Mark told you to apply.
Yes, indeed.
And this was just a content developer job?
Yep, just standard content developer. Back in those days, there was nothing like a senior dev or anything like that.
So it's all baseline then, essentially?
Yeah. In fact, I helped create the senior position.
Ooh.
I was one of the first 4 senior devs. Got into content and started creating things. So on my trial day, back in those days, trials were 3 days long.
And when obviously you ran them, what were they then? 1 day, I presume?
Yes, 1 day, yeah. Went down
what did you do in these 3 days?
So the first day consisted of, the beginning of it, you would learn RuneScript. And then you would be given an NPC, an item, and asked to just do a really basic fetch and carry quest. So I did that. They were happy with that. So the next 2 days consisted of write a brief and write the quest.
So as part of a content developer trial, you had to write a quest?
Yes. You were given 6 areas in the world. You could pick one and write a quest about it.
Wow.
I chose Yaneel and the Sandpit, and Hand in the Sand was born.
Yes. Oh man. So that's great. So honestly speaking, looking back on it now, was RuneScript easy to pick up for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just talk to it like a duck on water, I guess as the saying
goes. Duck to water. Yes.
Yeah. That fabulous stuff.
Basically, I had a background in PHP. Web scripts and sort of Access, VBA, that sort of thing. I didn't know anything inside out. I was not an expert programmer or anything like that, but I knew enough that I could pick up on the similarities. And RuneScript itself, back in the day, was really, really simple. There was nothing complex about the language, to the point where we didn't even have and.
There was no and?
There was no and.
So you couldn't do if this and this. You could only do if.
Yes.
Wow. See,
Mod Atlas actually gave us and when I actually brought him over and taught him RuneScript, sat him down and said, these are our logical operators.
And he was probably like, what the hell?
Yeah, he said, I can't code without and. And he went away and he coded and then we had and.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Genuinely wow.
Lots of nested ifs.
Wow, yeah, I'm just thinking, because obviously I mingled in RuneScript, I'm just thinking, all of the ifs you're going to have to do.
Yes.
Jeez.
Massive nested ifs. They were a nightmare. That
sounds fun.
Anyway, yes.
Hand in the sand.
So, Hand in the Sand, I spent the first half day writing the brief. The premise I came up with was, okay, there's that sand pit there. Why is it always full? If you take sand out of a sand pit, surely it empties. So it was purely a quest about why is the sand pit always full.
I mean, it's about as simplistic as you get, right?
Yeah.
And can you remember the reaction when you pitched this?
Yeah, Mark laughed.
Because I presume, in my mind, it's everyone's going to be serious, action-based, kill the dragon.
Absolutely not in those days.
Was
Absolutely not.
it literally?
Absolutely not.
Wow,
no,
okay.
The more you could make Mark laugh, the more chance the idea had to get in the game. I mean, there was a time for the deep story quests and things like that, but it was for fun. So
sorry, I'm just.
That's all right. You're typing.
Yeah, I'm trying not to type that much because I got a mechanical keyboard, so the
I know
little taps
clickety clackety
will pick up. So, Hand in the Sand became a thing.
Yep.
So you go from brief.
Yep.
How did it go to
and
development?
Then dive straight in and start developing.
So what was developing for RuneScape like back in 2006?
Really quick. 2005.
2005. This is still 2005.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I moved into content in in September, I want to say. So I didn't have, it wasn't even 9 months in customer support. Yeah.
So, when you say simple, what do you mean?
For me, it just flowed. That's the only way I can really put it. I was able to. Some people pick up languages really, really easily. I don't. I spent 3 years studying French. I can barely ask for a glass of wine, and I don't drink wine. But RuneScript, I could pick up, I could understand, and I could just write it. So for me, it was natural. And yeah, I wrote that. It was actually not the first thing I released into Game Live.
What was the first one?
Skeletal Wyverns.
NPCs.
Yep.
So were you just given them, or like how did it work?
The first thing, generally speaking, the first thing a content developer created was a Slayer monster, because it's a small project with unique mechanics, and it filled out the skill.
See, do you know? Now you say that, I wish that was the case for, like, looking at RuneScape now with 120 Slayer, and I still think RuneScape's 120 Slayer is still not filled out enough.
Yep.
And now I think about it, that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
Because
that was the idea.
It's simplistic enough, right?
Yeah, it's a nice small project for a new starter.
Wow. That's really,
Plus,
really cool.
It had all stemmed from conversations with Mark about Fossil Island as well. So it was the very first thing I released was almost connected to the very last thing I released, almost.
And we'll get into it, and I'm sure you don't mind me saying, but you had to fight to get Fossil Island in again.
Oh yes.
And we will get into Fossil Island. Like, don't worry, somebody asked about it just now, but we will get to that and many other things you worked on. So, you worked on the Wyverns as an NPC.
Yep.
That involved obviously combat, as it were. How was that back then?
Combat back then was curated by Mod Bennett, who has long since left. And basically, combat back then to any other developer was pretty much a black box. We could do all the special mechanics, but the actual core combat system nobody touched. So it was just a case of basically pitching to him the specific mechanics I wanted, and him saying, yeah, that's possible, you'd go off and you'd do it like this. And yeah, that's pretty much how it worked.
So we go from Wyverns. Is it, and was it literally Wyverns into Hand in the Sand, or was it anything?
Yes, Hand in the Sand got some polish, some feedback, as things do. You know what it's like. You supposedly finish something as a dev,
yeah,
and it goes off to get feedback and tested and things like that. And we added, the only significant thing that was actually added was the little cutscene when I got some graphics time, because obviously on a trial I had no graphics time, so all the graphics were added, and the little magic cutscene was added. And I think I instanced one bit of it, if I recall correctly.
So we go from Hand in the Sand.
Yep.
I mean, if you could remember the chronological order, we
I
could totally
can't.
do that.
Ash could give you dates and times. He is amazing when it comes to that kind of thing, but I am terrible. I know, and some of the earlier projects I did were Stronghold for Security and Warriors Guild. Originally, Warriors Guild was slated to be written by Paul Gower, and I was doing just the little strength add-on up in the top floor. So I did that bit, and Paul got pulled off onto something else that was more important, and I was basically told, go and write the rest of the Warriors Guild. Oh, by the way, we don't really have a design for it. So you can design it as well.
How was that, designing a guild?
It was really interesting because I had to design it around the 4 combat skills.
So you say 4 combat skills, I'm like, wait, and then I'm like, oh wait, of course, because me being a newbie, goddammit.
Yes.
So did you do the keg balancing, hammer throw, and
Oh,
shot
I
code?
loved the keg balancing.
How
That
did
was great.
How did you come up with it?
It was a case of how do I build in agility and strength, and it's a case of, well, what do you do that sort of, what involves strength? Lifting heavy objects, and we wanted to build in agility as well, because way back in the day there was rumours and talks about perhaps, bringing agility into the combat skills at the time. I just came up with a random idea, lots of random ideas actually, and the one that made Mark laughed the most was balancing barrels on your head. It was great until I restricted emotes, because you could do a headbang with your barrels on your head.
And I presume there was a very sensible reason you had to restrict it.
Well, yeah, it looked stupid.
But
and it went through walls.
Oh well, okay, fine. I'm sure there's a malicious reason behind it, sure. But I mean, the comedic purposes, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the only project I did where I didn't have to worry about graphical glitches was the Citadel Theatre, because we knew there was no way we could make that not glitch because of the dynamic nature of it.
That's kind of the fun with it, right?
Exactly.
Like, in my opinion, graphical glitches are fine as long as it's not like game breaking in any way.
As long as it's not functional, yes.
And if it's not deliberate, that's what makes it better, in my opinion. I love stuff like that.
Yes, we so did. Yeah, I've just read in the chat about the barrels being on your head when you log back in. Yep.
How did you come? How was that reported to you? And what was your reaction?
That was through the bug reporting system, and I basically it was a dull moment, a slap of the head, and oh yeah, I forgot about that. It wasn't actually my first bug.
What was your first bug?
Well, it depends. What was the first bug I coded, or what was the first one that was actually found?
Let's go with what you coded versus what was visibly seen by players.
What I actually coded was actually, back in the day, a Class A, which would be a critical now. And that was in Hand in the Sand, so it was actually coded on my trial. And that was the fact that I had put the talk to option on, I think it's Betty that you talk to in the magic shop, on her second option, which is reserved for attack.
Oh, of course,
so,
op 2 equals attack. Yeah.
Yes, so
right.
Even though she couldn't be hit with a sword or anything like that, magic could hit her, so they could actually kill the shopkeeper. That was, yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh no, that was not the funniest bug. No, the funniest bug would have to be mobilizing armies. When
oh boy,
I hadn't turned off pets. Now, mobilizing armies is scaled down. Everything is scaled down to a third the size. So
wait, really?
Those are tiny little goblins.
I kind of want to keep mobilizing that because I feel like it needs its own section because to me it's the most fascinating
great.
thing ever in my mind.
But the amusing thing was I hadn't turned off pets, and because the player is actually there but invisible, I happened to have a cat following me. So there was this massive cat stomping across the battlefield.
What to the pet word skills? You just see this huge paw. That's incredible! Oh my god! See, there's one thing I wish more than anything that like Jagex did or not should now do, in my opinion. That is like document like the fun stuff that they don't see before release.
Yeah. One of the greatest RuneFest things that I saw was the bug presentation.
Yes.
The funny bugs.
Like because why wouldn't you, right? It's
they make us laugh in the office. Why can't they make other people laugh?
Like
the null dwarf head. Oh, in old school, null, the object, when you delete an object, it's actually the graphics of it when you drop it on the floor is a dwarf head.
So someone dropped a dwarf head on the floor?
Yes, it's a massive dwarf head. Or used to be, I don't know whether it still is, obviously.
Oh my goodness, incredible. Okay, so we covered we're barely into this, by the way, everyone, so by the way, so just settle back, because we got a lot to talk about. So we talked about wyverns, we talked about Hand in the Sand. Do you want to stick to quests, or should we choose a random category?
I don't mind. Choose a random category. Roll a dice.
Okay, cool. Okay, you mentioned a little bit of Stronghold security. Let's chat about that a bit.
So, Stronghold security was an interesting one. For, I'm not sure how long, but at least 6 months, they'd been trying to come up with an idea, the company as a whole, to...
I mean, those graphics, I gotta say, I still think years on, they do really well.
Yeah, Mr. Saru outdid himself there. If he's ever out there in the ether listening, thank you, because that was awesome. The brief basically was we need to teach players about account security, but we want to do it in a way that isn't too fourth wall breaking. Now that's kind of difficult to do.
Oh God.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was swilling around ideas as we do as content developers and came up with a whole bunch. And the one I liked the best was based around the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And so this sort of existential plane that had been opened, as you do in RuneScape when you can't find somewhere to stick it. You just go into this magical netherworld and open up a new plane. And the idea was that it had been found by this explorer who unfortunately had never made it out, and he's still there at the entrance. And the idea is basically it asks you the security questions, and it led to some pretty dramatic changes literally overnight. So back in the day, the recovery questions module used to see like 200 to 2,000 hits a day. It fell over. It got 20,000 hits in the first 2 hours. So I broke the website.
How did it feel being responsible for breaking the website?
Scary. I was relatively new at the time. I'd only been there for like a year or two.
Is it I mean, I can understand why you'd be scared of it, but at the end of the day, right, you're not the one who's running the website.
Oh, absolutely
You've
not,
done
no.
what's asked of you, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
your content has now done that.
Yeah.
It's on those guys, really.
Oh, absolutely. But when you're new and you're putting things out, you don't like breaking things. Anyway,
God, don't talk to me about that.
It's right. You haven't broken clans recently. You're fine.
Well, no, I can't anymore, can
Exactly.
I? God damn it. Not like I can break login or anything anymore.
No, not anymore.
Oh, by the way, clans, as you can imagine, like.
Oh, we're going to get onto clans.
We will get onto clans, and there will be a lot to say, I think. But
anyway, so not only did I break the website, it also cut snapshots for account security issues by 80%.
Wow.
I feel a little bit bad because we actually laid some staff off after that.
Oh my god. Because the workload had dropped. Oh my god.
It had a massive impact on account security.
Wow. Wow. As a quick segue, someone asked, just for reference, when did you leave Jagex?
I left October 2019.
There you go. Same month as me. So we're quite alike in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
You left, I believe, mid-month, if I remember correctly, and I left
Yeah,
at the end of the month.
I can't remember exactly when.
It's like the second or third week of October, and I left at the end of the month. So okay, Stronghold security, and that led to downsizing. Jesus, and not know that.
Yeah.
I want to actually, someone just mentioned it. Talk to me about squirrels. So obviously, the like I want to say the persona, but essentially what you're known for is squirrels. Why squirrels?
I've always been known for squirrels a little bit outside Jagex. So I have long red hair, which is sometimes when I stick it up in a ponytail, very much like a red squirrel tail.
Like that, right?
Yeah, like that on the screen. But besides that, I can't remember how it got started on the forums, but the Queen of the Squirrels thing came about because of RuneScape players. So there was a conversation on the forums. Like I said, I can't remember exactly what it was, but they dubbed me "Oh Queen of the Squirrels," and I thought, that's an awesome title. They've given it to me. I'm going to run with it, and it's stuck ever since. I just love it.
So while we're on topic of squirrels, actually while we're on topic of just general stuff, I want to talk to you about quickly Easter eggs. So
you mean squirrel nuts?
I mean, sure. I mean squirrel nuts. I mean, developers, take pride in adding these cool little fun Easter eggs as they're known in games and stuff. These may be known. I'm not too sure, but I presume I'm going to hand the floor over to you and mention anything you want to mention about Easter eggs.
Oh, there's some amusing ones in the game. There's some ones I don't know whether have been found. There's quite a few on Fossil Island, strangely enough, because I was left to my own devices on that project.
And you added, there's a surprise. Who didn't expect you to add Easter eggs to Fossil Island?
What's the other ones that I can think of? There's one in the notes system. I don't know whether it's still there in RSV. It might have been
I remember seeing, not visibly, but I remember seeing in script editor the Easter eggs you've done. Wait, did you do all of them?
I wrote the note system.
But I mean the Easter eggs in them. Did you write each of those Easter eggs in them?
No, I didn't write them all. No.
But you did some.
I added my own.
I see. I think I know which one you added.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
What else? The handing of the acorns to the squirrels on Fossil Island was mine.
What's that do? Is it just dialogue?
It's just random dialogue.
Okay.
See, now I can't think of any. Now you've said it, I can't think of any.
I mean,
there's various different names of characters and things like that, which can sometimes be what's the right word? Anagrams of other people that I might know, or
Ah.
tributes to other people I might know. There's some little behaviours and mannerisms in some of the characters that I've written that are tributes. Some of the characters on Fossil Island are actually tributes is the wrong word, but they are actually embodiments of people who are, well, actually existed. So the lady who sells fossils in the camp, she is actually based on, I've completely forgotten her name. There was a lady who actually sold fossils in England to all the famous people who claimed they found them. I need to look this up now.
Oh, the intrigue.
Yeah, it's annoyed me that I've forgotten it.
What was it? Fossil Islands seller, I guess. Look, you're going to hear keyboards typing away here because Maz is so determined.
I hate forgetting things.
If anyone in the chat can contribute, by all means, please do. But Maz is on the hunt for it in the meantime.
She has a dog.
Is it Fossil Collector? Is that the NPC?
Yeah, I believe so.
She owns a dog named Trey, but upon release, her dog was not visible. Yes. It was added in a later update.
That was a fun bug. Yeah, I forgot that. She talked about it. She talked about and referenced the dog that was standing there next to her that wasn't actually next to her.
So she's talking about this incredible dog, but there's no one there, so they're probably thinking she's lost her mind. Incredible.
Well, she's a bit of a fossil, you know.
Oh, jeez. Oh, so actually, since you've decided to come up with puns, we have to kind of go on the topic now.
Mary Anning, thank you very much.
There we go.
So yes, it was based on Mary Anning, who found an awful lot of the fossils which are in museums nowadays with men's names on them.
Huh. I dislike that lady because she would always walk in front of the bank chest when I tried banking and I'd click on her.
Aww.
So, actually, it's a question. Did you play... Did you play RuneScape at the time you were a developer?
Oh, I played before that.
Oh, you actually played before that as well?
I had to know the game to do customer support, so I started playing before I even applied. 2004.
It sounds like such an obvious question, but like...
Oh, yes, I played.
Some people just don't play, and, you know, that's...
I had a bit of a hiatus in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
When things were getting a bit stressful. I'm sure
Who doesn't, though, right? Like, everyone has
there were certain projects being done that I did not agree with, so I had a little break. But yeah, still play.
Gotcha. We talked about Stronghold security. There's no, like I mentioned to everyone watching the stream, there's no chronological order to these, mostly because there's so many projects that Maz has done. I kind of want to focus on kind of like big ones that I know that she would want to talk about. So, okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
I know exactly what you're thinking of.
I want to talk about clans.
Yeah,
right.
no, you don't.
Okay, so talk to me about, first of all, before clans were a thing, there was the clan chat, which is in old school, the Friends chat, and obviously in old school it's called clan chat, RuneScape called Friends chat. How did clans come about in RuneScape?
They wanted a clan system, strangely enough. Something that was a bit more permanent than Friends chat. Because obviously Friends chats you can dip in and out of. They wanted something to tie people together in a community. So we went with clans because obviously a lot of the MMOs had guilds and houses and whatever they termed it. So we went that route.
Sorry, I'm just gonna let clan leaders know in clan leader Discord.
Oh, that's probably a good idea, isn't it?
Because I know they're very passionate about it. So you might
they'll all be on here telling me how I should have coded clans, copy pasting from other systems.
No, I think they'll be very appreciative. To be honest with you, I think even more so now. So they came up to you. So specifically, you were chosen.
No.
Okay, right.
So they knew it would be a big project. So they knew it would have multiple developers. Ended up that the core clan system had 3 devs and engine dev, so Mod Atlas created the engine side of things, and myself, Mod Roderick, and I think it was Chihiro at the time.
I remember seeing Chihiro in stuff in the script.
Yes.
So I believe so, yes.
Yeah, because he was a lead tech.
I also remember seeing stuff from Seb. But I don't know. I don't know if that was initial.
No, that wasn't initial. Seb was quite late in the process. But yeah, so we got together and It was quite a challenge because...
So how they just said we want a system.
Yeah, essentially we want a system. There was no real...
What was their definition of this?
I can't actually remember the actual document or wording they gave us, but it was basically create what other games have got. Because other games have got it.
That's a very broad
yes.
comment.
Yeah, so it was sort of what can we do? It was very, very experimental and yeah, prototypey. So we were looking at not only what we would like to do, but what is even technically possible. That was half the challenge with the initial Clans project, was we didn't actually have the engine systems until very late on in the project. So we had to code without compiling it, based on...
It was never compiled.
Oh, it was obviously compiled.
But like you didn't have an engine to work on.
No, we didn't have the commands. We had a list of commands that Mod Atlas gave us that he was going to code.
So you had to code
so we were
with
putting,
the assumption.
Yeah, we coded blind.
Wow.
So that was fun.
Wow.
So yeah, and then they would change, and you'd have to go and recode, and it would change again, and you'd have to go and recode. But we came up with a working system in the end. That was pre-Citadels. That was just the clan system, and getting that work, and obviously the related work going into Friends Chat, obviously to convert it to Friends Chat, and that also touched on other games because.
Fun old
Friends Chat and
7
everything
realms.
else. Yeah, exactly.
7 realms? 8 realms?
7 realms.
realms.
Oh, we're down to 7 now, are we?
Jesus, Sean. Oh, dear me. So, I mean, yeah, and actually I'm glad you mentioned it, because I actually completely forgot, of course, Clans in itself was not the Citadel system as we know it when it was first created.
Absolutely not. That was batch 2.
So, when we talk about Clans batch 1, like, I mean, what was it like back then?
I think the best word is experimental. We had the ranks, we had the job titles, we had the permissions, we had... Did we even have dynamic recolouring at that point? I can't remember. I think that might have come with Citadels.
For the... Yeah.
That might have come with Citadels, actually. I don't think we had that at that point.
So were the Vexes?
That came with Citadels. Yeah. That came with Citadels. So yeah, it really was all about the chat system and the structure of clans. You know, how you rank up, how that's all dealt with, and because it was an asynchronous system, it was interesting to code.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. Like looking, like obviously, because you and I, I'm just going to say you and I in other like Matt, he in between. I'd say. Like we were the ones who were essentially in charge of clans in the lifespan of our time at Jagex on RuneScape. So, you know, you were basically on clans until you joined old school, and even then you were still doing stuff in TAP, if I remember correctly, for clans.
Oh yes. And not just TAP, I'd do things on the weekends as well.
Yeah, I remember.
Clan Avatar Recall, that was done entirely in my holiday.
Superb update. My goodness, what a game changer. And then obviously Matt. Would be helping out as well,
yes.
And myself. I mean, from my experience of how the hell did you get through that time back then, I don't know.
Stubbornness.
To succeed?
Yes. It really was. I was wholeheartedly behind the idea of clans and supporting the very enthusiastic players who were also behind the idea of clans and doing everything I could with my limited resources to deliver stuff.
So I'm either going to do my clan passion speech now, or I may do it at the end of this bit. Like either what, I'll probably do it at the end.
Shall I go and take a break?
Oh boy. So okay, we talked about like that was Clans Batch 1. That was essentially the foundation of the system at the time.
Yes.
So were you doing Batch 2 straight away, or was there a period where you waited and then you were told let's do a Batch 2?
You know what, I can't actually remember, because those days I was working such long hours that everything sort of blended into one. So I don't actually know if I did something between the two.
Gotcha.
But it was interesting because we had even more developers on Batch 2. I think we ended up with 6 in total. And I was charged with doing the whole customization system. So for the Citadel, for all of the sort of Vexes and capes and everything else.
Honestly, how? Looking back on it, how?
It took me several weeks of sitting there and going,
surprised.
how? and just how am I going to get this thing to work, essentially. The data structures behind it were quite complex. Luckily we had structs back in those days, but we didn't have databases. So the customization system is actually a struct within a struct within a struct within an enum.
Oh yes, of course it is, because that's how it calls the graphics ID.
Yes.
And yes, I remember.
Yes.
ID to GFX, you know.
Yes.
There you go. Oh dear. Yeah. So I mean, and that's just touching what you did as that update as a whole. You presumably contributed to the as we know it, the Citadel generation, as it were.
Citadel generation was handled by what's his mod name? Mod Maltaire.
Oh, AJ. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
He did the generation of the island along with Chihiro, I believe. And I did plugged in all the customization to that. So he'd do the generation, and then I'd come in along and plug in the things that changed the placeholders to the red dragon or the topia of that nature. Or
so this is where we have to bring up, obviously, due to how different everything was years ago and the way it works. The Clan Citadel system, the map squares for a Clan Citadel. I have to bring this up.
Yes.
Yeah, people know about this, but I feel like it's worth reiterating. When they say, "Oh, just go and add a new plot," it's simple.
Just go and add a new plot. Oh,
it's simple,
God.
isn't it, Maz?
Oh yeah. So we have 7 tiers,
Yes.
which can all be dilapidated. So that's 14. They can all be day or night. So 28.
Oh, so this is before Skybox system,
yep.
so they were literally created to be night and day.
Then there was 4 layouts, so 28 times 4. And there was 4 map squares.
And then not including the different variations of the buildings as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's tier 7 of a kiln, a tier 7 of a mining plot. I mean, yeah.
Oh, Kaz has had her citadel dilapidated by the looks of it. Should have worked harder, Kaz.
I mean, it's a lot, without saying easy, it's a lot more nicer to you than what it was, that's for sure. The whole trying to maintain your citadel.
Oh, it's
nowadays.
easy escape now.
You can blame me for that, but hey,
I will.
You totally blame me for that, but I will happily take the blame. I think, looking back on it, I think I was happy with that stuff. It was a fun thing, but yeah, there's a reason why it's not just as simple of adding a new plot, because I try to explain it all the time, but I feel like you've just explained it way better than me, easily, in that scenario.
Well, yeah, because on top of that, you then have all of the iterations of code behind that for all of the different scenarios as well.
And unfortunately, this is an unfortunate example of what happens when you create content without essentially having the backing of the tools and stuff ready, like the engine and stuff ready to go, right?
We did, but we didn't as much as we could at the time.
Yeah, that's
Obviously,
what I mean,
technology moves on, and nowadays, with a much better graphical engine, we can do it. We could do it far better. We could do it with one set of 4 map squares essentially, and change all the. But the problem is now changing it would be one hell of a project.
One hell of a login check.
Couldn't be a login check. Clan data doesn't load on login, Shauny.
But I mean, if you're still logged into a Citadel at the time of a reboot, oh my god, clan data. Oh my lord, clan data. The literal haunting of my nightmares.
It's just hit him. You can't do it on login.
That's true. Oh my goodness. I mean, you can with a timer, but then once the server goes down, and all of this wonderful examples of you to think about. And this, by the way, is a perfect example of what me and Maz's conversation used to be like when I took on clan stuff in my free time.
Surely would be like, that's alright, we can just do a login check.
Oh, I just make assumptions, and that's the worst thing you can do with clans. Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. So, while we're on the topic of clans, obviously, there was the initial clan system. You, as far as I'm aware, single-handedly took over the running of Clan Cup.
Pretty much. No. Who was it? Mod names.
What do they do? Are they still Jagex?
No.
Oh.
There was a couple of CMs before Matty who did help and were very enthusiastic about clans, and I'm sure someone in here will remember them. But I am terrible at names.
There was a race to the tier 7 gold Vex. I didn't know this.
There was indeed, yes.
Oh yes, of course. Because if I remember, the variable for it's called Ubervex. That's a great name. I love that name.
That I don't think I coded that.
No,
No,
you
it
didn't.
was you, wasn't it?
It was, no. Ubervex was done by Mr. AJ.
Oh right,
Yeah, he did
fair enough.
Ubervex.
That doesn't surprise me.
It's a terminology that fits him perfectly. I think.
Yes.
Oh dear me.
I do remember whenever we needed puns, we'd just bounce off of each other.
Okay.
Me and AJ.
You came up with a pun earlier on. Talk to me about puns very quickly before we go to
puns. Oh, hand in the sand. We actually hotfix. My very first hotfix was to hotfix more puns into hand in the sand because we thought of some more.
How was hotfixing back then?
Very similar to what it is now. It's not really changed much.
Okay. Because it just works, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It's fair enough. So here's the thing, right? Now I've learned from my time there that old school on RuneScape hotfixing and the definition of why we should hotfix is so very different to each other. I've seen old school many a time in my time at Jagex hotfix typos. That is not a thing that's done in RuneScape, which is it's interesting. Like when I think about it, and I presume it's because of I'm guessing it's because of different processes in the sizes of the games, but I don't know.
I don't know of any technical reason why not. Obviously, I've not directly interacted with hotfix systems with RS3. I know they have to do a bit more around the languages.
Yeah, look.
So
like,
it could be a translation
thing.
issue. That's the only thing I can think of.
We have always any time we've because there's a couple of times where I've had to write text for a hotfix and then be like, localization guys, go and write this. Like, can you write this so we can? Because obviously we can't push this out, and if it's like a time sensitive thing where the text is wrong or the text is telling you something you shouldn't be getting told or whatever, then it's kind of a big problem in that. So oh Matt.
Oh Matt.
Oh hi Matt.
Hi Matt.
Matt with, just for those of you watching back on YouTube or so on, I'm just going to quote what Matt K has just said in my chat, which is, it's because, I quote by the way, it's because RS3 devs can't spell so they don't notice them. So I just want to quote that before someone says, why are you insulting RuneScape mods? I'm quoting it from Matt K, just so you are all aware, and covering my own ass in the process. Oh Matt. So we talked about puns, we talked about hotfixes. Okay, back to clans, back to clans.
Clans. So the other thing. No, it's not. They're awesome.
No, not in a bad way. But I mean, I'll wait for you to do your bit because I'm going to get into a very long and ranty topic on clans, and not because of players. It's because of the other side of things.
Yes. So when we were all working on batch 2 of clans, I was doing the customization stuff, and I was actually asked, okay, so it looks like your stuff is going to finish a bit before everybody else's. Do you want to do something else? And I'm like, yeah, why not? So I came up with the idea of the theatre. I wanted a place to support role-playing clans.
That image in it alone just says
it's great,
all,
isn't
doesn't
it?
Really?
The best thing was going to the 3D graphics artists and going, can you make me some 3D but 2D assets for a stage? Because I wanted some cardboard cutouts, essentially. And I do know that there are a couple of clans who actually still hold.
Yeah, they're a dedicated role-playing theatre clans, and fair play to them. At the end of the day, if it's still getting usage, then what's the harm, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I do know. I remember seeing it recently. I didn't know this, but RuneScape Wiki tweeted out a GIF that you can actually throw panties onto the stage.
Oh, that's actually random. So there's a very small chance when you're throwing the flowers that you can actually throw a pair of pants.
For God's sake! I didn't know that until Wiki tweeted about it.
Matt Simpkins, not Simpkins, Simpson, something like that. He's gone on. He left Jagex and went on to work with Ardman. So yeah, he's gone on to bigger and better things. But yeah, he did some awesome animations for me there. Yeah, I really enjoyed some of them.
Yeah, I think the theatre, and it's crazy to think. So the theatre, realistically, probably wouldn't.
Sorry, I've just seen chat.
Yeah, Matt's comment. Matt is on fire tonight, as per usual.
No,
oh, which one?
The one from B2311.
What's the drop rate of those panties?
Get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on. So, if I'm understanding what you said correctly, theatre wouldn't have happened if you didn't have the time to do it based
Essentially, yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And also, in case some of you are watching from old school and don't play RuneScape, this is what the clan citadel looks like. This is a obviously tier 7 grand citadel, as it were. So
do you have a dragon?
Yeah, of course, blue dragon.
What, blue dragon?
As in
Oh,
the highest dragon. What's the best one?
The black dragon's the best one.
Well, then why is the most expensive one not the best?
Because someone else decided which was the most expensive one. I so wanted to do a little bit of extra with the dragon.
What did you want to do?
I wanted it so you could actually throw meat up onto its platform and it would come along and eat it.
That would have been amazing.
I know, I couldn't get the graphics time.
I would have loved to have seen it, like, accidentally set a clan member on fire.
Yeah, just swoop down and just woof.
Oh, that would have been amazing. Okay, I'm just gonna get this off my chest right now.
Go on, then.
So,
I'll have some chocolate while you rant.
This is obviously your stream, but while we're on the topic of clans, and I do hope some people from Jagex are listening to this and they listen to me, or maybe they're already doing something about it. I don't know. I have no doubt that old school's clan system, whatever that may be, when that time comes, I'm pretty sure they'll do an awesome job of it. But what I will say is that I feel like RuneScape clans are so undervalued in what they can do. Like 66% of RuneScape players are in a clan, which means if you do a clan update, you're literally affecting 2/3 of the player base, which is, when you think about it, quite significant. I do know, however, from personal experience that people are hesitant to go near clans, and I can kind of get why, but at the same time, clans deserve that love, and I feel like they've been so massively undervalued in many years. I don't expect them to get anything this year, update wise, that's going to be massive for them, which is a shame, but I do hope that at some point clans gets the love it deserves, because it's a fantastic piece of content in a game that, when done properly, is actually very beneficial to everyone playing the game. So, that's me being quite politically PG about it, because I know for a fact that when I've wanted to get some stuff done, I've been told no, because they don't consider it to be worth it, and so on and so forth, which has really irked me, because I disagree with it completely. But that's my 2 cents on it, and that's all I'm going to say on clans, because even though someone may pick up clans now, they're just a rep for the clans. They don't have someone who does development for it in their free time because they're passionate about it, and that's what irks me about it. And that's not I'm not saying that someone needs to work, they should work after work to do it. What I'm saying is that don't do that. But what I mean is I know there are people there who are passionate about clans. I know for a fact there are. So just please drive it forwards, because it deserves so much, and I think it can do so much more. And while we're on the topic of clans, just to finish it off, Maz, I know that obviously you've been on the RuneScape side of things with clans.
Mm-hmm.
What would you, looking back on it retrospectively now, love to see old school do for their clan system? Now you have all these years of experience based on what you've seen in clans.
That's really difficult, because ultimately it's going to depend what technology engine give them.
And by that you mean, does it use the same thing RuneScape does,
yes.
so it shares, or is it something different?
Yeah, I mean, is it going to be the same technology, the same commands that RS3 has? I don't know. If it is, then they're fairly restricted to pretty much what was made for RS3, because it was made for that system, as it were. It's pretty set in stone. I mean, you could do things like have more ranks. That's fine. But the actual
not until you speak to Web, though.
Yeah, because it's web work as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Can
we enter Citadel clans on Avatar?
Of course we can.
Because Avatar was a bit of a pet project.
I love avatars. I think avatars are awesome.
Well, I was given the task of create something which brings clan people together to do something.
So obviously, for those who aren't aware, Clan Avatar in its original iteration, before AJ decided to write something and I decided to kind of change it a little bit and take away what Maz did to an extent. So when avatars were initially created, they, as a clan, the time they were created in 2012, I would say 2012.
Yeah, 12 or 13.
2012, 2013, all the way up until 2018. you would be given 3 avatars, and you can only have.
Avatar came quite a bit after Citadels.
Oh, okay, so
Several
avatars.
years after Citadels.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So 2014, maybe 2015.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember. Exactly.
Actually, you actually did a clan month. I remember.
did clan
yeah,
month.
it was 2014. So Sugnin, thank you, and Chaplin, thank you for the subs. 13 months in a row, crazy.
Wow.
Anyway, apologies. So yeah, avatars, when they were originally a thing, you would dedicate avatars to the world, and one person would be the almighty holder of an avatar.
Yep.
And it would be limited to that. You could have 3 in one world if you really wanted to, but
No, you couldn't.
Could you not?
Nope.
Oh no, of course you couldn't.
You could have
because,
3
yeah,
out,
3
but
out
on
but
different
3 different
worlds.
Yeah, you're right.
The idea being that it was actually the essence of the floating island.
So you had a lore reason behind it.
Oh yeah.
You had a very good lore
And the
reason behind it.
orcs were part of the island, and you were feeding it back to the essence of the island to keep it going.
Oh, the orcs! I completely forgot the ort system as well. I'm so sorry. Like, I literally decided to, like, with AJ's design, I killed off the orcs and I killed off the sharing because, well, I mean, you fixed a major problem of it with recall, which we'll get to in a second, because recall I think was awesome. Avatar, as you mentioned, yes, was an idea of basically getting people together. And what I loved actually when I first started playing RuneScape was I love seeing all the orange dots on the map.
Yep.
And actually, I got another rant point I need to get off my chest right now. There was an there was an NXT client change done to prioritize the friend dot over the orange dot.
Oh, now that was an argument we had right in the beginning of clans. Which one should actually have priority?
And technically, yes, it won a poll, but I will still stand by the fact that orange dots on a mini map should always stand out over the green dots, in my opinion, because for me a clan is more central compared to friends. Or there's something to do with a colour issue on dots, I can't even remember, but it's definitely to do with the dots on the mini map. It was a change and I wasn't a fan of it, but I had to deal with it on that, and I'm sure someone will be able to remember it.
Yeah. I just liked all the different buffs you could get with the avatar.
There were 6 back then, right? There was resurrection, there was heal over time, XP boost, clan resource gathering boost.
Yep.
There was a defensive one.
Defensive one, yeah.
And there was a sick one. I'm pretty sure there was 6.
There was a familiar one. You extended the time of the familiars in the area.
That as well. And then, if I remember, the XP boost was 3% on the world you're on, and then 3% when you were next or in a range.
Yeah, that was fun trying to go.
Checking the range on a timer.
Yes.
Because actually, yeah, because while we're on that topic, it used its own familiar system,
yes,
right?
I had to sort of hackily hook in, but not, because the whole familiar system used the login and log out triggers, and I can't use those with clans because clans don't exist on login and log out.
Correct.
I had to write around that, so I kind of rewrote the familiar system for clan avatars.
And then what did I do? I plugged it into the familiar system
Yes.
anyway.
Thanks, Shauny.
To be fair, this is when years have gone by and it was better to do it, whereas back then it makes complete sense why you did it that
absolutely.
way. So yeah, that was Clan Avatar. I'm glad you mentioned that actually, because avatars are
And Recall
awesome.
was awesome.
And yeah, Recall was an update you did while you were on old school.
No.
Oh no, apologies. You
No.
did it, but it was not your time. It was not your project assigned to you. You
No,
just
I did it on holiday.
Yeah, you did it on holiday, which is again mind blowing to me. I think that's amazing though. And Recall was a superb update while it was there because, well, you don't ever want to be that person who at the time logged out and didn't tell or didn't dismiss your avatar. I can't find my words.
Yeah.
Didn't ever want to dismiss your avatar.
But yeah, because we didn't have the clans on log in and log out was the reason I couldn't dismiss the avatar for you.
But then you added Recall and took it away from them. That was awesome. Okay.
Technically, I didn't. Technically, it was still on the person who had the avatar until they logged in.
Oh, very good. Of course. Okay. No,
There's the whole
my mind's just clogged.
asynchronicity of the entire system just messes with my head.
I remember you. We went into a meeting and you had a whiteboard, and I've got an image on my phone somewhere of it where you literally wrote every system in clans, all of the inputs, the outputs, the strings, the ints.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was insane. Just trying to process all of that. That's incredible. Oh dear me. But yeah, like if I'm to end on a positive note, like clans to me, like I think clans are the most important thing in RuneScape as a content, because it's not something you'll dip in and out of constantly compared to maybe a PBM or a Clues or just general stuff. Clans is bringing more people together who you all have common interests with, whether that be doing activities together or just socializing or going to events, so on and so forth, and they deserve a lot more love. Well, yeah, once technically Porky took over Clans when I left, but he only took over it as a rep on the community side of things, not dev, whereas I did both, essentially. So there's no person doing dev for Clans whatsoever, essentially. Which is a shame. It deserves a lot more, but you know, I'm not the one to decide that. But I just hope it does happen one day, as you did. You thought the exact same.
Yep.
Many a time.
It was my one regret going to old school, was having to leave Clans.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's. Oh man.
And then when we announced old school Clans in, I think it was 2015 or 16 RuneFest, I was like, yay! I get to do Clans. But it never really happened.
Man, that's honestly, that's insane to me, because like that shows, like it kind of shows the connection you have.
Yeah.
For it, really, which is amazing. But you know, it's happening now. I just hope that, you know, I'm sure old school will get it right. I have no doubt that they'll do a good job of it. Fingers crossed. Let's
ask some random questions that we had from the Twitter.
Sure. Maybe a little scroll. I'm gonna keep that for the. I'm gonna keep that for the end.
Okay.
Because that's like a generalized question about content. We'll keep that for the end. We talked about I don't know. You said the damn words. Anonymity. You know the damn word.
Anonymity.
There we go. What was the one thing you could force into the game if you could?
Which game?
Let's go both. RuneScape and Old School.
RuneScape would have to be the future evolution of Fossil Island as it is in old school. So it would be sort of Fossil Island but in the next age. So everything will have evolved because evolution happens really quickly there.
And it actually links the two games together, which is actually really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. And
old school Clans.
Fair. Were you actually involved in any of the Clan stuff prior to you leaving?
I wrote a forum post. It's probably still sticky, to be fair. And I gave my ideas on design. That's it.
Gotcha. Clans. God, we talked about Clans already, for sure.
Yeah, we talked about Clans.
I'd like to know what the transition from EOC to OS was like from your perspective, and just to be... Okay, I want to know what, in essence, the person is asking about the beginning of OS, but I kind of want to go into OS and you joining them, because actually you're the first person I've talked to who has actually been not someone from the start of OS but joined them in their infancy still, but not from the exact start.
Oh yes. So what happened there was Modreach left, as we know, and they were a developer down, and they really needed someone who was experienced to rewrite Duel Arena, because at the time Duel Arena was having an awful lot of problems.
I feel like Duel Arena is like the thing I remember you most, because I don't play old school, but the thing I remember you most doing is either the POH Notice Board or Duel Arena, apart from Fossil Island. But I feel like Duel Arena you were glued to.
I did two things in Duel Arena. I did the rewrite to begin with, which was the full rewrite, which solved an awful lot of glitches and bugs and downright exploits. And then I did the second one, which was the tax.
Digital Attacks, which I still think should be in RuneScape, but I don't know why it isn't, but anyway.
Pretty much a copy-paste job as well.
There you go.
What else was I talking about?
Just like coming into
coming into old school. So the idea was that I would come onto old school temporarily, rewrite the Duel Arena for them, and then go back to RS3.
Well, we all know how that worked out.
They kind of kept me.
So I mean, so I have to ask you. You don't have to answer this. Was it your decision to stay on old school, or were you told to? And like I say, you can decide.
It was a mutual agreement.
Gotcha.
In the end.
Okay.
Be interesting to see what Matt thinks of that.
Go on, Matt. You're here. I've seen you chat still. All right. While we wait for Matt's answer on that, how did you find the work-life balance around Jagex?
That really depended upon the project you were on at the time. So there were projects like clans.
Which I presume was not normal work-life balance.
Oh, that was not a normal work-life balance. No, that definitely was not. I think that was the closest we ever came to proper crunch. Other projects were usually, it was usually sort of short duration, long hours, as it were. So Cerberus, for example, I had to get done very quickly to fill a release slot. So there was 3 or 4 nights when I was up till midnight or gone midnight to get Cerberus finished. But after that, it would go back to normal work hours. So it was on and off.
Matt has replied, by the way.
Has he?
Yes, he has.
Oh, thanks, Matt.
Which just for those people watching back on YouTube, so you won't see the chat, which is he said, moving to old school was a great decision for everyone involved. So there you go.
Oh, but apparently RS3 lost a soldier.
I mean, they're not wrong. I mean, that's just they lost someone with a lot of experience, right? And actually, while we're on the discussion, we're kind of on general stuff we did in Jagex. So you at the time were a content developer, so we're trying to go back to the timeline here.
Oh, right.
So
timeline, right.
Content developer from 2005 all the way up to...
Terrible with dates. Ash would be able to tell you exactly the year.
That's right.
There was a few years after that, where I became a senior dev. So basically the idea was we were getting more and more content devs in, and we had obviously the experienced old guard and the newer ones
to bring them up, essentially.
So they looked around the team, saw who was doing a lot of work, who was doing a lot of sort of extracurricular activities as well, and I was one of 4 that got chosen to be a senior dev. I believe it was Ash, Mod John A, myself, and Mod Tim.
And only one remains.
Yep.
Of that 4.
Of that 4, yeah. So that was that. I then took on the training. In fact, I took on the training before then. When Mod D Cook left, I took on training kids. He used to do the training. He actually trained me. So I took on the training for new starters and got involved in recruitment way back. I think that's possibly one of the things I'm most proud of at Jagex, is the fact that when I look back, it's not even the content that I've created that's had the most effect. It's the decisions I've made with hiring and training.
How many people?
I've lost count.
3 digits?
I don't think we've been through 3 digits of content developers, to be fair.
When did you take training?
A year after I started in content.
So 2006?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not 3 digits, but I'd say you're pretty close.
Yeah.
If I was to guess, I mean, even still, I
stopped hiring for RS3 just after I moved over to old school, so that was passed on to Helen and Mohawk.
Mm-hmm. I feel like, if you don't mind me asking, and again, don't feel like you have to answer this, can you remember any particular mods you trained up?
Oh yes, Mod Pie.
Mm-hmm. He actually mentioned this, I remember, on his interview. Yeah.
Yes, he had an interesting attitude when he first came in. That everything should be his way, and everything could be better if they did it his way. Sorry, Pie. He eventually learnt, and he was a very good student. And as has been sort of proven by the fact he's now, is he actually now gameplay programmer doing engine work? Yeah,
he's basically, from what I may be completely wrong, I'm sure he'll correct me and probably shout at me if I get this wrong, but I believe he's like, essentially what Atlas did to an extent is kind of like what he's involved with on the engine side of things and stuff now. So he's doing engine, and he's very involved in that and making it awesome. So,
I mean, old school, I trained everyone up until Flippy, I believe.
So you trained everyone up until 2019?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Jesus. That's awesome. So you trained like your Kierans, you trained Jeds.
Yeah.
This is where a camera would be useful, I won't lie, but I'm sure you all can figure out the face that's being made right now. I mean, at the end of the day, who the hell could predict
I would say that when that hiring decision was made, it was not one I agreed with.
So you actually were not for it?
Correct.
If you don't mind me asking why.
I can't say.
Fair enough. But obviously you had an inkling of some sort. So hey, you were proven right there.
Oh, Stu's in the chat.
Oh, Stu! Oh,
Hey, Stu.
Let me give Stu a little crown because he deserves a crown. And actually,
So yes, Stu moved over from Stellar Dawn, and I trained him in RuneScript.
I'm actually going to be grabbing Stu in the near future.
Oh,
as
that
well.
would be a good one. I'll be listening to that one.
Yeah, me and Stu are just going to. I don't know. I'm just going to let Stu talk. He's great at it.
Just stick in front of the mic. And
I
just
always know
go.
Stu is like a legend of doing like an 8-hour stream on his own. Bless him. Like absolute hero. So yeah, I mean, you obviously mentioned old school. Oh, Matt, you are on one today, sir. 14-hour stream even.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably did, Matt.
So, once you mentioned, what about RuneScape? If you don't mind asking, who did you train on RuneScape?
Oh my God! Right. So
let me first name see.
Name a mod.
Raven.
Yep. Didn't hire him, but did train him.
Oh man! Oh my God! My brain's just absolutely.
Maltair.
See, the problem is I joined.
See, Maltair was arrogant. Oh yeah.
AJ, arrogant.
Oh yes, very arrogant. He's so gonna slap me.
Oh my God, he's gonna hate you. No, I love genuinely like a true story. Like he actually gave me and Anna like a lot of stuff from when his little ones were growing up to help bring up lyrics.
No, AJ's awesome.
And I absolutely love AJ for that. He's an absolute hero.
Yeah.
Love him.
Who else?
See, the problem is I can't.
Easty.
You trained a beastie.
I hired and trained Easty.
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna say hiring Easty. Like to me, he's the god equivalent
Drew.
of Ash in RuneScape. To me, like that's Easty. Drew, hell of a pickup as well.
Helen, Mohawk.
You literally trained the release team as it is.
Trained everyone,
It was
pretty much.
Easty,
Yeah.
Drew, and Helen. That's amazing. Mahi, I mean, you kind of trained Mahi to an extent,
I
right?
tried to train him in RuneScript.
I mean, Osborne. He did.
He did a little. I trained him way back in the day when he was a web content editor.
Dave was a web content editor. I didn't know he did. I know he did quest.
Well, that's
help.
what they were called. Yeah, the quest help stuff. Yeah, the quest help stuff. So I had to train him to read RuneScript to find out what was.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah. So I trained Dave. Who else can you think of that's iconic?
Come on, chat. Fire us some mod names.
Throw me some mod names,
and we can see if Mads has trained them or not.
I trained all the engine team as well on RuneScript.
All the engine team on. Oh yeah, of course, because obviously engine team need to write RuneScape to see
Modrock, yeah, trained him. Raven,
we mentioned
yeah.
Raven. Mark. I mean, you can see them.
Andrew Gower. No, I didn't train Andrew Gower.
Why would you mention MMG?
MMG never coded RuneScript.
Dear.
Yeah, that's a good point, Bren. Why waste time training them when I can just copy paste them?
So, when we look at you mentioned obviously back then when you were trained, 3-day process.
No, that was a
trial.
That was a trial.
Apologies.
Yeah. Training 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks. No, it was a week back then because the language wasn't as complex.
And you were sat beside. They were sat beside you, and you would just. So what would you have them do?
So when I was training or when I was being trained?
Let's try both. I want to see how different it is.
When I was being trained, we would spend the morning. I would be taken through the section of the dev manual, have all the information thrown at me, and the afternoon was then exercises. I evolved that into little bits. So I would take a small chunk, go over a few commands, get them to do an exercise with them. Back and forth like that, and I restructured the training program so that there was a lot of previous subject repetition, so you were repeating but in different ways. So you would so for example, one of the very first starting exercises is getting an NPC to say something, and you'd use that throughout. They'd be saying things, so you get used to using the various different commands. And at the end of my training sessions, they would come out with a little rewritten game of Gnome Ball. See, the idea was eventually we might come across a mechanic of Gnome Ball that would actually be good enough to put in the game.
And this is only because everyone is writing their own version of it.
Yes, the idea was to come up with a game that uses a ball and 2 teams.
If
and
you
some
can
form of
say,
scoring systems.
If you can say, are there any that stand out to you?
Oh yes, the one that accidentally, infinitely duplicated gnome balls and having them flying across the screen. Because they'd forgotten to check whether the gnome already had a ball to throw, so they were just all throwing balls and there were just balls flying everywhere.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Did I train Chriselle? Yes, I did.
Wow. Okay. Well, people will love you just for that. If you want to be honest with you, especially on the RuneScape community. Oh dear me. That number one sounds awesome. So I mean, you look back on it, and I think it's awesome when you train. Like when you look back at your legacy, to me, is you essentially set that framework for bringing in the people that many of people who are in Jagex right now. You've had an influence on, an impact on in some way.
Yep.
And I think that's the most important.
I mean, there's people gone on to do. What's that?
Matt, just Matt, being Matt. Matt, just being Matt. I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, there are people who have gone on to
do great things.
Yes.
So it's like when I was hiring them, possibly straight out of uni, you don't really know what's in store for that person, and I try to always give them the best start. Because I suppose when someone comes out of uni, they're so used to academia and the life of, well, I don't really have to get out of bed, do I? I can skip that lecture. And when you move into a job, that all changes. And sort of moving someone from that mindset to a more work-oriented mindset sometimes was quite challenging. But it was part and parcel of the training, really. I mean, not only did they have the 2 weeks intensive training with me, they would then have a mentor for the next 6 months, who was their go-to person if they had questions.
Oh, so the mentor was just they can just fire stuff away.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So
I always tried to pair people up with others who had strengths that would complement their weaknesses, so they could train. So if someone wasn't particularly good at their documentation, I'd pair them with someone who was really good at documentation and could show.
That's amazing. Someone asked that in a question. What are you doing now? I actually want to keep that for the end, because I always try to end the stream, especially with people from Jagex, who used to work at Jagex. That was them at Jagex, and what are you up to now? So we'll leave that for the end, Dodgy, if that's okay.
There's an end?
There will have to be an end, unfortunately.
But I've got tomorrow off work.
But you told me it's until midnight. You give me. You're like, I have to be out here by midnight. So when we look at, I mean, again, I keep saying barely scraped the bloody surface. Achievement diaries. I want to talk to you about
achievement diaries. So Mark wanted a piece of content that was expandable, that would teach people about parts of the game that maybe they weren't that confident or even didn't know existed, and would just prompt them just to go over there and give it a try. So I came up with the concept of achievement diaries, and did the Karamja one. And I actually wrote it so that I could add and remove tasks dynamically if I needed to. It was never ever used.
That's what I didn't use it.
No, and it was later taken out, but it was done in such a way that, if we added a new task, then your reward would be taken away and you'd get, have to re-earn it, as it were. And I had a hand in pretty much all of the achievement diaries on RS3, either in a design or dev way.
I remember you very much involved. This is when I was kind of getting ready to join. In the Prif one, I remember that specifically well. Obviously the quiver.
Setting him on fire! Yeah, that was awesome. Has anybody found the Dave Elf Easter egg?
Elfborn?
Yeah.
Yeah. Elfborn's been found.
Oh.
It's all good there. That's been
Thick Dave.
Stu still sets Coden on fire every day because it never gets old. Stu.
Proud of you, Stu.
So I look at achievement systems now, of course, integrated into the achievement system as areas and exploration. I think I enjoyed the achievement system for its system back then because it made me do stuff in the game that wouldn't ever go near.
There you go.
And that was the point of it, right? And that was what worked, and I thought it was really good. Obviously, tying into Concave definitely helped in that, but also, I wasn't.
Don't get me started on Concave.
Do you want to talk about Concave?
Concave shouldn't exist.
Why? I imagine you had this discussion.
Concave shouldn't exist with stats. Okay,
that I can agree with, because I feel, for me, that's why we have specific combat capes. I can agree with Concave not needing stats, but, you know, that's been a whole Concave rework on RuneScape, yada yada yada, all that stuff.
And completionist cape should be completionist.
Everything. Agreed. And I agree with that as well. But, you know, that's why trim comp is kind of a thing. But then again, trim comp still doesn't include everything to an extent, if you think about it. Anyway.
Otherwise, it's not completionist, right?
Correct.
Could just call it sort of almost got there cape.
For God, please call it that. I nearly made it cape. Oh dear. There was a question I saw on RuneScript. I actually want to ask you about RuneScript really quickly. This is kind of 3 questions. We'll split it up. How much over the years has RuneScript increased productivity and expedited development time?
As compared to what?
I mean, that's a very good counter answer, I guess. I mean, okay. So I guess the way to phrase it is, how has working on RuneScript been as time has gone on?
So the language itself has got far more complex. I mean, just one of the things is RS3 now have the ability to use databases. Old school still doesn't have that. So the concepts have moved on. When I started, we didn't have arrays, for example, or local variables, or and.
I can't believe there's no and. That is incredible.
And, well, just passing data around we couldn't do. You had to save it in a variable, jump to the next piece of script, and then pick it out of the variable again.
That explains so much about old stuff I saw.
Yeah, terrible. Wow. There's some terrible old RuneScript still hanging around where it does that.
The keyring, the old steel keyring.
Yes, the keyring.
The old steel keyring.
%I and % return value. Yeah.
I saw that many a time, yes, I remember that.
Yeah. So they yes, it looks really horrible code when you come to it now.
Yeah, of
but
course.
Back in the day, there simply was no other way to code it.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm hoping Jagex don't mind me saying it, the Dungeoneering XP code is special.
Yes.
It's absolutely special.
It's like I went back
and the reason the reason why I've said that is because I want to do the Dungeoneering XP calculator for the wiki, and I know what it consists of, and obviously having to write the calculator for it means I'm going to have to explain it when it's visible how it all works, and I know just from it is fun.
Bonkers.
Fun, in quotation, I should say.
Interesting.
Anyway, interesting. There you go. Wham. That's what I should have said. Anyway, yeah.
Yes, when I look back at things like Hand in the Sand, which was written in 2005, and you look at it in 2019, you go, why on earth did I write it that way?
Whack on Stu's quest system now, and you'd be rocking. But you didn't have that back then.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's fair. And the other one was, I don't know if you can answer it, but I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong. Who wrote the parser for RuneScript?
Probably Andrew to begin with. Andrew wrote everything. It's obviously been hugely changed. Actually, no, the old school one will still probably be mostly Andrew's code, but with changes that have happened, obviously, as we've resurrected the game. And some of Mod Atlas's improvements, but the RS3 one was completely rewritten by Mod Atlas. I got the one pack tool. The one pack tool. Yes.
In appropriate capitalization on the start of each word as well.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. So okay, let's go back to some stuff you've worked on. Let's have a look. Okay. We mentioned it in a brief earlier. Mobilizing armies. Talk to me about mobilizing armies.
Well, mobilizing armies.
Where did this come
design
from?
for mobilizing armies was hilarious. The original, at that time, we were given. I've forgotten the name of the document. They'd give us a brief sort of, this is what you're aiming for document, and that was to have an update which got useless items out of the game, which had some interesting game mechanics, and didn't use any engine time.
Oh my god.
Right?
Wow.
Yep. So we came up with a number of ideas. This was me and Mod Tim at the time. We were both on this. It was a dual dev project. We came up with all sorts of different ideas, and they liked the idea of this strategy game thing. So we put together a prototype, and it was really, really, really bad. So they decided to give us engine time. And it went from being a project that we do not have any engine time to you can have any engine time you want. Just develop this. And
this was essentially they were doing this because they wanted a RTS in RuneScape.
Essentially, yes, because we came up with that idea and proved that even with our really bad prototype, it could work. They wanted that. So we had all the engine time available, which is why you have a hell of a lot of systems which are used today. For example, player prefixes.
Player titles, because of course they were. Yes, I remember player titles.
I wrote the original system for mobilizing armies,
and then the original system had to be redone because finally it got.
We then got suffixes and everything else. Yeah,
people went mental.
What else? We also have being able to target somewhere on the floor. We couldn't do that before. You had to target an entity before. We also have the head bars. Those were mobilizing armies, and the timer bars above your head. Those were mobilizing armies as well.
Timer bars were because of mobilizing. Thank you very much. Some of the updates I did use timer bars, so thank you.
There was all sorts of other tweaks as well to the targeting system, because that was the nub of the entire game. Essentially, was the targeting things that you couldn't otherwise target.
So the titles only worked when you were at mobilizing army.
Yes, just in the area.
Interesting.
Again, it was a very experimental system.
It makes it quite exclusive though, which is cool.
Yeah.
I like it for that reason.
It kept the area busy as well.
I'm not surprised. It's like this new shiny thing.
And the sad thing about mobilizing armies was I wrote the system to take the useless items out of the game. Essentially, I mean that was the be all and end all of the game. I mean, mechanics aside and rewards aside, take the useless things out. We actually wrote that so that we could hotfix in what items we wanted to be put in and what points they get back for it, and it was never used. They could have changed that on a weekly basis if they wanted to, or even daily basis.
So, do you think, looking back on it, it was kind of just thrown to the side after its release and not looked after?
I think there's a lot of things that we make nice plans for, but there's no time set aside for those plans. So it could have been a really good item sync had it been embraced. Obviously the scoring system needed some work. I really wished that we had not rewarded losers.
Because everyone's just going to go for participation.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I know you're.
But it was fun. Ultimately, it was really fun working on something completely different from your average. Because, RuneScape, ultimately, when you're developing content, is a quest or PVM, fairly standard stuff, or achievement diaries. And it was completely novel mechanics.
I know you were vocal about it when Mobilizing Armies was removed.
I was not happy.
Why? It's an obvious question to ask. Obviously, it's the content you worked on, you put your time into, but...
It also had lore put behind it. It was also worked into other bits of content. It was... And it hadn't been used for its purpose. That was the thing. That was the thing that got me. It's like, it was created for a purpose that it was never used for.
So it didn't get a fair chance then?
No, I don't think it did.
Yeah. I'm still, like... I said this to you obviously before. I can't remember if I said this to you during this or before, but I didn't really have a chance to play Mobilizing Armies, so...
Oh.
It wasn't anything that I wanted to get done. I didn't obviously have time to play it. I know of... The only reason I know of Mobilizing Armies is because in the NXT client it was horrendously broken.
It was totally broken.
In the tutorial.
Yeah. I think ultimately that was why it was taken out.
If you think about it, obviously with the move from killing off Java to now NXT only, I guess, kind of makes sense, which is a shame. Are there or were there any plans to revive the minigames in RuneScape/OS?
I can't speak for RS3, but I definitely pitched at least 2 other mini games for old school.
Do you want to leave it at that for that one, or elaborate?
One of them was quite fun. It involved construction and agility.
A construction and agility minigame?
Yes, both competitive and cooperative. So it would be 2 teams that had a limited amount of resources, and you could build a limited amount of agility items. So either a rope swing or something.
Was it
like
so? This
that.
was a completely new minigame, or
Yes,
was
this was pitched by me.
That actually sounds really good.
And what would happen was
Jeez.
you would have a length of course to traverse with various different obstacles like rivers and things like that. But you would not have enough resources to build an entire course. So you had to work cooperatively with one person going across the course and the other people building it as you would go. And you were racing another team, so it was both cooperative and competitive.
Wow, I like that. I actually like that.
I really love the idea. It lost out to... what was the quest that was done? Quest before the... Oh, I can't remember. It was one of the quests. One of the big.
Someone said
big
Theatre of
storyline
Blood.
quests. Possibly. No, not Theatre of Blood raids. No,
Monkey Madness
not
2?
Monkey Madness 2. No.
Well,
One of the ones that Ed did.
okay. Fair enough. I mean, personally speaking, I think that sounds really fun. I mean, I would give it a go. Dragon Slayer 2?
Possibly, I can't remember.
Okay. I want to go back to general questions. I'll leave that one for the end as well. Okay, this is a very important one. It's an industry-wide question. I think it's important to talk about it. You kind of touched on it a bit. You said the closest you came to a crunch, technically, was clans.
Yep.
Did you ever experience it yourself, personally?
What, the crunch time?
Crunch.
I did at least, if I recall correctly, 25 hours of overtime in 1 week.
Do you remember what that was for?
That was for the clan
That was
system.
clans, okay.
And that carried on essentially to a certain extent. But it's not good. It made me ill, essentially. Crunch is not good.
No, I mean, in particular, if we look at the industry recently, it's kind of come back up a lot with games being delayed and and the whole emphasis on crunch and so on and so forth. And you're obviously, I'm assuming that you're a very firm believer in absolutely no crunch whatsoever.
I see overtime unless it is the cause of someone being lazy and not getting the work done. I see overtime as lack of planning.
So we need to hit this date at this date, but you have to do all this extra time to do it because of the lack of planning.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's... I wanted to touch on it because obviously I know crunch as a whole is quite a touchy one in general anyway for anyone who's involved, not even just in the games industry,
it's
right?
sad because the games industry itself has so many people who want to come into it that, if you don't do crunch, then they'll just find someone who will.
Sadly.
Whereas in real industry, yes, overtime happens because, as I say, things go wrong. Emergencies come up. That's fine. But when it's, we didn't plan enough time in for this project, then that's the fault of whoever's doing the planning, not the fault of the dev.
I don't mean to sound... This is like, without me trying to sound bitter on a personal note, the only time I ever got asked to stay behind work to do something happened to be day of my birthday.
Oh no!
Also happened to be the day that my first birthday with my child, who couldn't wish me a happy birthday because she had to go to sleep because I was still at the office on that day.
I never work my birthday. It's one thing I've never ever done.
I said that on my stream on the day I left Jagex because it's really inside digs away at me every time I think about it. Like, my actual birthday, memes aside, like my actual birthday, the first time my daughter was in this world to help me celebrate my birthday so she can wish me a happy birthday and give me a present and stuff, and the one time I couldn't that happens because it's never going to happen again because obviously it's going to be my second birthday with her. Like, the one time it happened was the time that I was told to stay behind and write up a report on the player and fan nerfs that had been announced on stream just 20 minutes prior that I did. So that will forever stand in, like, dig inside me in regards to, yeah, I'm not a developer, I haven't experienced that crunch, but in regards to working overtime and the impact it had on my personal life is significant. And I said it then, it was one of the biggest reasons in my mind, and I said it in my leaving interview to people asked me why I was leaving, and I said it was one of the reasons, because to me, my family means everything to me, and that hit me and that hurt me a lot. So yeah, that's a story on the definition.
You've made them all cry now.
Well, yeah, and I don't like talking about it because it makes me upset, but I feel like it's worth.
No, it's not paid overtime, by the way. Usually not.
No, it wasn't.
No.
It was just, I need you to stay behind and do this and have this ready so we can talk about it first thing in the morning. That was the gist of it. Yeah. It, I'm just, it pisses me off every time, like, I think about it, and I just think, like, it could have been handled so much better, and it was the only fucking time in my life that I cried at my desk because of what happened, and I won't say who it is, they still work there, but they saw I'd just come up from the streaming room, I'd seen this message on my phone, which was being asked for this, and as I was walking back to my desk, I was getting very emotional because the realization hit me that I wasn't going to get to see my daughter before she went to sleep for my birthday. And then this person saw that I was crying and basically like came over and was like, "Are you okay?" And I explained it to them, and obviously they got it. But yeah, I hate it beyond belief. Like, I don't think I'd quite get it until experience it firsthand, and I feel like I experienced it firsthand on a topic that really got to me a lot, and having had that, I get it 100%. I get it 100%.
Yep.
Anyway, that aside,
pick a random question.
Yeah, or actually I might pick a topic. Right, let's do this. Fossil. Let's talk about Fossil Island. Right.
Woohoo!
When did you first want Fossil Island in the game?
Me and Mud Mark were talking about Fossil Island at least from the point I got the content job, if not before.
2005.
Yeah. We had plans. We had lots of plans. I think we actually published the original design document. Well, it wasn't actually the original design document. It was the write-up of the original design document. Because the original design document was actually me and Mark scrawling on paper.
That would be a real collector's item if it still
probably
existed.
still around in the boxes that I've left. I left boxes and boxes of stuff.
Oh wow, there must be some historical stuff in there.
There was some of Paul Gow's original designs in there.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
I collected random things. Anyway, Fossil Island. So we came up with lots of ideas. The whole idea behind Fossil Island was, one, the lore behind the Dragonkin, and the fact that you would never, at the time, this was back in 2005, the idea was you would never properly interact or see properly a Dragonkin. You know, you'd see as much as you saw in the, is it Tale of Two Cats?
Oof.
There's one quest where you kind of get an idea of the Dragonkin.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was based around the lore of one particular Dragonkin who decided not to participate in the war. She didn't want any of it, and went off somewhere quiet to do her experimenting to try to effectively procreate, which is what they wanted to do, which is what it was all about. She was using the mycelium that she found there to try to create things in the hopes that she could find a key to being able to create more Dragonkin. And it's like several other Dragonkin did this. It's where the various different monstrosities you see around QBD come from. But the entirety of Fossil Island is basically evolution on speed. Oh, Matt. Oh dear. Anyway, we should have Matt here.
A trio stream.
No, that would be bad. That would be bad.
With Matt's interjections.
No, that would be bad.
And his one-liners. God damn it. Unbelievable.
But yeah, no, so it allowed me a lot of creativity, and the idea was originally to have an activity to do for every skill, so that you could get fossils. I never made it. I never managed to make an activity for every single skill, but I tried.
So how did you finally get it in?
How did I finally get it in? I kept pitching it when I moved to old school. And I kept reminding them that the players had actually been told that this was coming from the point we did Varrock Museum update. So I took Varrock Museum, which way back in the day was just a little room with some books, and gave it all of the displays and things like that, and had the deliberately empty room and the barge.
Good.
The barge.
Very good.
The idea being that we would then do Fossil Island. But things happened, and it was 10 years till it actually got done. I did like the excuses about the barge that they took to RuneFest though. Those, what was it, the 10 different barges, and one had got lost. And,
yeah,
that was hilarious. That made me laugh.
I remember them. So you know, you finally got to add Fossil Island to the game, and you actually got to work on it.
Yes, it was awesome. So it was so nice because I not only got to add my ideas, I got to talk to players and add their ideas. So a lot of the things you find on the island are sort of a crazy cross between my ideas and their ideas. And there was so much more I could have added. I could have gone at least another year on that project. And every time I think about it, I think, I didn't put enough in, and then someone goes, yeah, but what about X, Y, Z that you added? And
I'm pretty sure that's always the mindset though, right? You always think, look back on something and you're like, I could have done this, or I could have done that, and it would have made it that much better, and so on and so forth. But, you know, it has its identity in old school, its unique identity for, you know, it is Fossil Island, it is, you know, the underwater stuff. And,
that was fun to plug in, because I had to mess with base anims. And the stuff that actually builds your character at the beginning of the game, it had to go, right, are you actually underwater now? Because normally it just assumed you weren't, of course, because there was no underwater. So it had to determine, one, are you underwater? If you are, what is your weight? And are you wearing flippers? So are you actually swimming or walking?
Wow. There we go. So you have to change the core, basically, of the game as well for that.
Yes.
If you would, so Anachrony on RuneScape, or Land Out of Time, whatever you want to refer it to, what do you think? I mean, I don't know how much you know about RuneScape, but what do you know about it based on what you know?
Well, originally, before that even existed, I was talking to, is it Mod Joe?
It is.
And about possibly extending Fossil Island into the 6th Age and having it sort of taking what was on old school and having it had the evolution time that it would then have to come to the 6th Age, and then you could sort of have Fossil Island but have it evolved, so even more weird and wonderful things going on. They chose not to do that, so they chose to pull it out of time and do some strange stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
And kudos to the guys who worked on it. Some of the mechanics they came up with there were awesome, especially the big game hunter stuff. That was great.
See, I look back on Big Game Hunter now, and its time of release didn't do that. Like, it had a negative reactions to it, but now, in retrospect, looking back on it, very unique piece of content.
Oh, it's awesome. I
awesome.
love that mechanic. I was over there and testing it with them, and throwing ideas at them as well.
I remember you were on the playtest. Yep, I remember.
Like you could camouflage yourself with particular types of grasses so that you could get closer to it and things like that.
Yeah, I think like it's done really well for itself when you look back on it now, which is really good.
And of course, the pun was intended.
Oh, kudos. What else? Okay. I want to bring up...
Fossil Island, Varrock Museum. Make sure you look at the examines of all the fossils once you've got them in the cases, because there's some awesome puns there.
And you wrote them all.
Duh.
I want to talk to you about decanting in old school. How was that?
Decanting. The project I nearly gave up on. It literally was the project I nearly gave up on.
How was it?
Awful. It's possibly one of the most complex pieces of code I've written, and that includes clans. I spent 2.5 weeks roughly trying to map out technically, before I coded it as it were, in a technical documentation sort of stage, how I would go about doing it with the restrictions of our engine, knowing that I had restrictions on the amount of commands I could run in one cycle, the arithmetic overflow stuff, the fact that I couldn't overflow your inventory, but at the same time I couldn't allow it to dupe anything or delete anything if it stopped mid-flow, as it were. That was... It actually got to the point where I took Ash aside and said, look, I don't think I can do this. And he said, well, have another think, have a look at my old code, because he did the decanting in RS3, which was just decanting, I think, to 4 dose, was it? This
is before they added flasks, so this was just vials.
So I had a look at that. It gave me some pointers, but when you're decanting to other doses, from other doses, it was incredibly complex. And the one thing I really appreciated after that, when I put it out, 1, it had no bugs, which I was shocked at, and 2 was the Reddit discussion, where someone started to say, oh, this was simple, why did it take so long? And then I started a technical discussion with him, and we actually got on to the technicalities of it, and he started to realise it wasn't simple. And he started to realise the various different limits that I was working with would made it more and more complicated. There was several mornings I remember cycling to work, just going over solutions in my head. What if I did this, and what if I did that? And the maths behind it. And the project that nearly broke me.
How did you... What was the... Can you remember what specifically was the part that was a pain in the ass to get?
Having to deal with the arithmetic overflows, and at the same time the limitations of the inventory. So especially if you're decanting stuff down into 1 doses, or from sort of 4 doses into 3 doses, what do you do with the extra vials? What do you do with the odd doses that get left over and things like that? It was not the actual core mechanics. That in itself, yes, is simple. It's all of the edge cases that you have to catch.
I hope one day, for whatever reason, people can actually see what you had to do.
It's one hell of a piece of code.
That's what I mean, yeah. So they could actually see what you had to do to make it happen. I hope one day it happens, but who knows? I had to bring up decanting because I know for a fact that was tough. Excuse me. We talked about Jewel Arena. You mentioned Cerberus earlier. Actually, someone said that they found Cerberus to be one of the best design bosses in old school. So
wow.
I don't know if you saw that.
Take that as a compliment.
You can take that. You can take that one indeed.
Thank you.
I
really loved the ghost mechanic. I really did like that.
Is this right? Home teleport. You were involved in home teleport.
Involved in? I invented it.
You invented home teleport.
Yes.
The 30-minute timer. Wow.
Yes. So
how
the idea was, people come off a tutorial island, they're lost. They don't know what to do. So I invented the tutors you find around Lumbridge. Created all those. Created the training bow and the training arrows and those sorts of things. And it came down to, okay, well, that's great if they're still around Lumbridge, but what if they've wandered off and got completely lost? They're not going to be able to find their way back, because obviously this was the days before we had a world map. All you had was that little scroll parchment thing that's completely useless. So it's like, well, we don't really want to give them, free teleports and stuff like that. Well, why not one that they can just use occasionally? That takes a long time to cast, that can be interrupted so they can't exploit it.
Took a while, it's like, what, 10, 15 seconds? Yeah, 15 seconds to cast.
So yeah, I came up with home teleport.
You are responsible for home teleport?
Yes.
My goodness. Of course, now lodestones in RuneScape, but still in old school. Wow, that's crazy. Honestly, I did not know that. That's awesome. What else do we want to talk about? Because there's so much to talk about. I'm trying to find some good stuff that might be fun to talk about. So we went into Fossil Island. The Seed Vault.
Seed Vault was fun.
Do you notice I'm picking ones that I know you haven't had fun doing?
Well, it was fun and it was not fun. It was incredibly complex data-wise, because it all had to be written in such a way that it was completely expandable. So when we came to add more seeds, which is going to happen, all they have to do is add to a data structure.
Oh
dear, Lyris isn't happy.
See, she's unhappy that you had to do a Seed Vault.
Yeah, probably.
So in the meantime, I'm just going to wait to see, because sometimes she does cry and I'm glad to sleep. So if she does cry, I'm going to leave the microphone in Maz's capable hands just to add stuff in the chat.
Pause.
We'll see.
Not hands, pause.
Oh, yeah, you're right, sorry.
Does that mean I can throw nuts at the chat?
Whatever you want.
Brewing vats.
Yeah, how was that?
Yes, brewing vats was fun. I enjoyed that. Seriously, I really did enjoy that because I took vast amounts of code and made it into a small amount of code.
Yeah, so I know Ash has a lot of satisfaction in optimizing.
I love it. I did the same thing for when I rewrote creating potions. That was awesome. I took something like 4,000 lines of code and turned it into 300. Because again, back in the day, they couldn't pass the data around, so they just had duplicated code for every single creation of potions.
Oof.
So I just put all the data in a data structure and read that, and had some nice generic script for creating the potion. But yeah, the Seed Vault and other things. Whenever I wrote a system like that, I tried to write it so that it was future compatible, essentially, meaning that any dev comes along and needs to add to it can do so, like the Portal Nexus in Clarence House, which they recently added to, and I believe I think
it was added to with the update that's just come out.
Yes.
Nightmare.
I believe they actually tweeted that the code was easy to add to, so yay, it worked.
If anyone's done that, it's probably Ash, if I was to be a guessing man.
Probably.
Because Ash tweets so much. I just want to make a note as well, actually. So Ash is going to be here on Wednesday with me, and we're going to do this type of stream with him also. But I mean, I just don't get how he finds the time to do all his tweets.
Me neither. I really don't understand. I think maybe he has a sort of like Android bot or something. Is
Yeah, they added loads of teleports onto Nexus from the Arcade spellbook.
There you go.
Nice.
And yeah, I wrote it in such a way that they would have a minimum amount to do.
There you go.
Essentially.
I want to leave notice board because I believe notice board was the last thing you did before
it was
you left.
Indeed.
Yeah, so we'll leave that towards the end. Well, towards the somewhat at the end anyway. What about holiday events? You became like the holiday events person.
Yeah, I did tons of Easters. I never did Halloween. I finished off Halloween for someone, but I never wrote a Halloween as my project, as it were. But I did tons of Easters and a few Christmases. Managed to get the squirrels in there on the Easter events. Yep. That was great. I really did enjoy getting the squirrels in there. It's like the only opportunity I really had to get the squirrels in. Someone actually asked on Twitter was why isn't there a squirrel quest? And it's like I never managed to get a design past anyone.
I don't know.
Always a bit of frustration.
I'm trying to figure out how you would do that.
Exactly. Well, my idea was to sort of a bit along the penguin line, but the penguins got there first.
Ah, I see. So the penguin quest line would have been the squirrel quest line in essence. I see.
You do know that penguins are just squirrels in penguin costumes, right?
No, I didn't know that.
Well, there you go. You do now. Just about think about it.
Didn't you do a clan cup on acorns?
Yes.
I thought
Yes,
so.
yes, acorn collection. So there was
so.
a clan cup once where you could give your acorns to this the I think it was a squirrel. Yeah, I think it put a squirrel in. And the person with the most acorns got a mention on the statue. I hope it's still there in the clan camp.
The statue's still there.
Good. Well, it's there then.
Yeah, when I redid the clan cup system, I definitely remember seeing the... Because I was wondering, because that's what I found out about it. I was like, there's an acorn clan cup? Like, what is this? And then I saw the script for it, and I was like, of course Maz did this. I was not surprised in any way. Oh dear, that's amazing.
But I've just seen in the chat, we need lore around the squirrels on Fossil Island who cut down our hardwood trees. Well, the squirrels heard of the fact that Fossil Island had been discovered, and they effectively stowed away on the barge, the very first barge that went over there, and they took their seeds with them and planted trees, as squirrels do. So now they look after yours.
Oh, amazing. What was your favourite holiday event to do? If there was one from... I don't know if you can remember the year, but remember the theme.
Definitely the one with the massive Easter bird.
The Easter bird?
Yes, the one that was sitting on the perch producing the eggs. Because the animations were so brilliant. They made me take the roll of toilet paper off the end of his perch.
You had a roll of toilet paper?
There was a roll of toilet paper on the end of his perch.
Oh, that's a shame. I kind of get why, but still, boo. Boo. Amazing.
But yeah, that little factory essentially was my favourite. And the lore behind the Easter bunnies, the fact that the Easter bunny is a bunny in a suit.
Because, of course, why wouldn't he be?
Why wouldn't he be?
This is RuneScape, right?
And don't forget, he's actually a squirrel in a bunny suit.
Stop it, it's too late for this. Were you involved in
There are toilets in RuneScape. Someone just said toilet paper, but no toilets in RuneScape.
There are toilets in RuneScape?
Yeah, there's one in the desert, and there is one on Zaya. And in fact, I think I put one on in the Winter Todd. I can't remember, maybe not.
How was Winter Todd to do as content?
Winter Todd, it is the way to get your fire making up now.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, technically, it is slower than burning logs.
But I guess burning logs compared to skilling boss,
Exactly.
excitement.
Exactly,
You know.
that was the idea behind it.
And how was that to do as a project?
That was interesting because it was one of the few that I didn't actually design.
Was it Ed's design, I presume?
Ed's design.
Yeah.
I obviously helped because at the time he wasn't a content dev. He didn't know what was technically
He was
possible.
QA, I believe, at that time, right?
He was indeed,
Yeah.
yes. So we designed that, and I developed it, added in some of my own stuff. Came in one morning after a weekend and found that Ash had left me a present. So there's the big pit in the middle with the Winter Todd. He'd put a toad, recoloured it white and called it the Winter Toad.
Of course he did.
So I kept it, I put it in the camp.
That's incredible.
That was one of my Easter eggs.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing.
Excuse me.
Bless. And there's one thing that I noticed as well. I wasn't, obviously I didn't see the old school team that much, based on where I was, but there was always a camaraderie between you and Ash in particular. Obviously because
I've worked with Ash for 15 years.
Yeah.
Come on, you don't work with someone and not have some form of relationship with them. Ash was awesome. I can't rate Ash highly enough. Especially because he drinks Earl Grey tea, So.
the tea scale as well. Oh,
Does
dear.
Ash make mistakes is in the chat. Yeah, Ash makes mistakes.
I mean, we talked about, and when I had Dan on my stream, there was the, I think it was a corp that had a bug, and
Yeah, no,
Ash,
that was Ash.
Yeah, who
was-
doesn't make mistakes, right?
Exactly. He just makes a lot less than most of us.
Yeah, correct. Okay, let's...
So, Easter eggs.
Oh.
Winter Todd. The cat that walks around the camp is actually a tribute to my cat that I lost through cancer.
Oh, what? Is it got dialogue, or is it just...
It has dialogue, yes.
So... Oh, man.
I've made them all cry
but
again.
it's forever immortalised in
It
game
is,
now.
exactly. So she'll never die.
It's like so Pickle the cat on Player and Farm is based on my cat Pickle. The model isn't, but it's based on my cat.
See, that's the thing. I remodeled because
you
in old school
you have model skills.
in old school I could do modelling because the graphics aren't that great.
But like my cat was in the game, and it still is now. But for a period of a month, it got taken out from the farm, and it was in the duration where I just left, and I was like, the timing of this is so bad. But I was like, where is Pickle? Like, where is he?
Yeah.
And then like a month or two later, he got added back in. I was like, hey, he's back now. I was happy. Good. But yeah.
I didn't want to kill Bob the cat. I had a plan for resurrecting him.
Are you able to say what that plan is?
Well, it'll never go into game,
Well,
so I don't see why not.
Do it.
Well, I say resurrecting. At least making him useful. So you'd go along to the grave, dig him up, and have a new weapon. A cat. No, get this. A cat of one tail.
That went completely in a direction I was not expecting.
I think I broke Shauny.
What the hell? I was expecting like some real. I was not expecting to dig up a. Wasn't ready for that. Unbelievable. I can imagine Bob being held like a swamp lizard. Jesus. Yeah, well, I wasn't ready for that one, I'll tell you that much. Okay. What else? I'm just looking, I'm trying to pick out ones that are fun to talk about. Deadman mode.
Oh, Deadman mode.
How was Deadman mode?
Deadman mode was interesting.
The original Deadman mode, right?
Yes. So I was involved right at the beginning of Deadman mode. So I wasn't the only dev on it. I was asked to do a few bits. The bit that I most enjoyed was writing the guards, because not often are you asked to write an NPC which will kill players and has to kill players. Usually it's write this thing that eventually that will get killed by get killed by players. But yeah, being able to write an NPC whose sole goal in life was to kill players, especially it being a guard, it was kind of sort of meant to be, really.
Writes itself in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah. Like, those poor guards that their life expectancy is usually about 5 seconds. They come along and whack you.
And they're even killed in quest cutscenes as well.
Yes, Kaz in chat. Maz does like killing us. Skeletal Wyvern, when I first released it, because players were used to obviously dragons with the anti-dragon shield. Wyverns are not dragons. You needed the elemental shield.
Oh, that
and it actually had a warning on the entrance to the cavern.
But they wanted to get in and test out
the
new content.
I was standing there and saw someone come along with his anti-dragon shield, and I'm like, you probably don't want to go in there with that. He says, no, I'll be fine. He came out 5 seconds later with like 2 hit points left.
Oh man, amazing. Okay, let's talk about Slayer logs and boss logs.
Slayer logs and boss logs.
That is very data driven, correct? When I mean data, I mean variables, right?
Yeah, that's more variables. That is hundreds upon hundreds of variables.
How was that?
It was tedious but simple. Did literally that, to be honest with you. I coded a lot of it in Excel because it literally was same name and then increase a number.
Vars, varbits,
yeah,
etc.
exactly.
Yeah.
And just then whacking an interface on top of that, which wasn't too difficult.
Easy peasy. For some reason, I have to mention this. It's on here as an NPC. It says giant chocolate chicken. Context, please.
Okay, so the giant chocolate chicken.
Yes.
Was an idea that myself and Rock came up with for the Easter event. He's now looking on the wiki for it. This is hilarious. I'm
bringing up your page for it, so I actually completely forgot that. I love that Ash added you in game. Actually, there's a bit of once in a lifetime trivia. You and I on the same month were both added retrospectively to RuneScape and Old School.
Yeah.
You were added as your squirrel, and I was added as my Gobi mask.
Aww.
So we both on the same month. In both games, were added to the games. That's pretty cool. That's actually a really cool stat. I didn't.
That's the only that I deliberately haven't added myself to the game anywhere. And I know a lot of devs do, but I deliberately haven't. What were we talking about? We were talking about
Sorry, yeah,
giant
chocolate.
chocolate.
Giant
chickens.
chocolate. Yes.
Not the other one. Okay, so Easter event happened. I did a maze-like thing where you had to solve riddles and find your way around a maze. And ultimately, the story effectively was that someone had got the wrong potion. I can't remember whether it was a player or not, and had, rather than create lots of chocolate eggs with magic, they'd accidentally created a giant chocolate egg, which turned into a giant chocolate chicken, which you then had to fight. And the nice thing was, I'd written it so that it was reusable after the event, so you could go and fight the chocolate chicken. And they then resurrected it, at least for the last Easter event. I think they're going to do it again whenever it's appropriate.
Congratulations on writing a very appropriate, reusable NPC then.
Yeah, and it had some brilliant things in it, like, because you can use the word buck very creatively. So yes, the chicken does indeed buck you, and yeah, it's fun.
So I kind of want to segue, just to have a breather, and we can kind of just talk a bit more fun stuff now. Bugs. I want to talk about bugs. Obvious. So
I hate making bugs. I really hate making bugs.
Floor is yours. Anything you want to talk about bug-wise.
Sorry to all the pures.
What did you do with pures?
What did I do with pures?
Or what did you do to pures? Not pures anymore.
I took on a quality of life job, which, after I released it, Ash actually said to me that he wouldn't have dared attempt it, which worried me slightly.
Was this, so just so I understand, this is the old school granite morphin?
No, this was the old school storing of combat styles.
Oh right, but when people were using
categories.
the maul is when it happened, if I remember correctly.
I don't think it was the maul. I think it was one of the staves. I can't remember. There was a particular thing that was in the wrong category,
and it used the wrong style, right?
It used the wrong style essentially, which meant that the pures got XP that they didn't want to get. So yeah, that wasn't very good. One of the worst bugs I've done. Not the worst.
Okay, what's the worst?
I've broken RuneScape.
Okay, how have you broken RuneScape?
Well, I kind of created a dupe.
Is this the one from last year?
No, crossbows way back.
Crossbows?
Yeah.
Go on.
This is so there was when I first released crossbows, there was a duping bug in it, which is not my finest moment.
Was it just a silly mistake kind of thing, or was it just?
Yeah, it's literally a silly mistake that wasn't caught.
I mean, to be fair, we've seen in both games kind of silly things to lead to bugs. We had in old school we had a bow spawn on a map.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. It happens at the end of the day, right? It's just
incidentally, I wrote a system, helped Ash write a system. He wrote part of it. I wrote part of it. That actually prevents that. It doesn't prevent the spawn from happening, but will prevent bad things happening as a result, or at least allow us to fix it really, really quickly.
Someone said, was it related to stringing issues, which caused it to keep the incomplete one and get the whole one too?
Sounds familiar. Crossbows was a long time ago. In fact, Crossbows came out of me talking on the Rants forum. I hope that anybody remembers the Rants forum.
I remember it had a lot of posts.
That face said you remembered the Rants forum.
I know of it, yeah.
Yeah, so I managed to turn a rant into a very, very constructive thread, and we ended up designing crossbows on the Rants forum, essentially, which was really good. I really enjoyed that. And we came up with the whole crossbows and enchanted bolts thing. Oh,
there you go. Rants brought something out of it, which is good. I don't know if you can answer this or not. When the max cash issue happened in PvP, what happened?
So that was an interesting one.
Because this is like a story in its own right.
Yes,
right here.
So I was actually the one to do the upload for that. And I was the one who was on duty as far as hotfixes go. So initially it came to me, and he said he new dev, pretty much, and we had this strange sort of overflow error, and we're like, well, what's causing this? And it took me a little while to actually work out in the code what was going on, by which time Ash had realised the connotations of what that actually created. So as soon as that was realised, Ash was busy closing the game down whilst I was busy writing a fix for it. So we sort of both jumped on it, because, well, yeah, if we hadn't, then even worse things would have happened.
So when we look back on that, of course, it was the first time Old School ever did a rollback.
Was it?
It was.
Oh,
it's the
wow.
first time they ever did a rollback of anything to that nature. I actually remember being in the Slack channel when all that was going, and the only reason I got dragged in was because I was basically trying to help out.
Oh yeah, with comms.
Yeah, with comms on it, because
I do remember Mod Atlas basically turning around and going, I wonder if it still works, because we've never used it before.
That was literally how it went. It was like, he suggested it, and he was like, we can try it and see what happens. And, you know, luckily they had, of course, a rollback to, I think it was like a minute or two into the start of that update, which obviously was fine.
Yeah.
But I remember vividly how important, or how much difference.
Everything stopped, really, didn't it? Everyone was just like, oh my god,
like
something.
The game was offline, what, 5-6 hours, I think it was, and there was silence over in the OS area, like from my view, because where I was sat at the time, I could look over, and a couple of rows down was the OS area, and everyone obviously was looking into their monitors, presumably trying to do it and trying to figure out how to go from there.
Kaz's comment, walk moment. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I guess. And you know, you look back on it. I look back on it now, and I'm just like, how much significantly different the game could have been if, obviously,
it would have ruined the economy. I honestly don't think we could have recovered from that.
I'm gonna ask Ash this question on Wednesday, but Falador Massacre, were you involved in that in any way whatsoever?
No, I was not. 666. I was a very junior content dev, very new, so I really wasn't involved at all. I was working on my own stuff, and it was Ash that was always on call, so it was Ash that dealt with it. I heard about it, of course, but
a reaction, if you can remember?
I was a bit bewildered because I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't have the understanding that I do now of the connotations of what happened. I knew it was bad from the player perspective, but I didn't understand what happened in the code.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, I mean, the max cache stack bug, one of the things I did do, once I'd got the hotfix out there, to fix the bug is go and look after Mod Lenny, because that is one hell of a shock when you create a bug like that. I mean, I've had it before, something similar, and the shock that goes through your system is...
I hope he doesn't mind me saying...
devastating.
Yeah, agreed. And, you know, I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but, like, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like, because obviously this is during a time when he was still on probation.
Yep.
And he was petrified that was it. You know? And at the end of the day, and even you just explained it, right? It wasn't as simple as what it sounded in the bug.
The actual code of the bug was actually really simple. To the point where that is the reason it wasn't spotted.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, there's no bad ending here, because obviously, you know, Lenny is now a full-time content developer at Old School, doing
and a
awesome
very good
stuff.
one.
And was he your last one? Who was your last one? Who you trained? Because if it isn't him, then...
I think it might have been Tide.
No, okay.
I can't remember. Did I train him? Oh, I can't remember. It was either him or Tide.
Mm-hmm. Either way,
no, I didn't train Flippy.
Definitely one of your last ones, and you know he's doing well.
I'm sure you would blame me, Matt, but you know.
Matt. Oh dear.
I should, you know, blame the one who hired him. You know, and made the decision.
God. Oh lordy.
Ah, dear.
Alright, what else?
No, Lenny, I have much respect for Lenny. He really learned from that, and the way he handles it now is so awesome. He'll have things like, I didn't have a reason for bringing these donuts in, and the responses to him will be, no, but there's 2.4147 billion reasons.
Oh, so it's now
everything.
It's
a meme. It's a meme now.
Just like next gen will forever be tied to my life, as it seems.
Oh yeah. What's next gen?
I'm just gonna say it out there. I've done better marketing for that thing than I've ever seen Jagex do, because obviously nothing's ever come out of it ever since. So I marketed it very well, obviously, like the great actor I am.
Oh yeah, you did it completely deliberately, right?
Not in fear of losing my fucking job or anything. Jesus Christ. Oh dear. Oh yes, more bugs. I want to talk about more bugs. There must be more, right?
More bugs. Oh, there's always more. I just can't remember most of them.
Any that come to mind? Or maybe the chat can help us actually.
Yeah, go on.
Pop in some bugs over the years, guys. See if we can see.
See if I've created.
We're looking for time period from.
Any bugs with Shattered Heart? Not that I can recall. No.
We're looking for time periods from 2005 to 2014 for RuneScape, and then from 2014 to 2019 for Old School.
Soul Wars would have been. Wasn't that Mod Chris E?
Before my time.
I seem to recall that was Mod Chris E, but I could be wrong.
Well, did you work in Dungeoneering at all?
I did not. No, Dungeoneering happened when I was doing other stuff. But it was a project that I advised that they didn't put 2 new starters on, which they did.
They put new starters on?
Yeah.
Dungeoneering?
It was 3 developers. One of them was very experienced, and 2 new starters.
New starters on a new skill?
Yeah.
What? Wow. That's a bit surreal to me. Wow, that's crazy. Did you not though plug in essence? You didn't do Dungeoneering. You had to plug in the tasks, right? So you had to
absolutely. We've gone into the code and things like that.
How was that?
It was interesting because basically they were forced, again because of the state of the language at the time, to effectively duplicate all the skills. It was kind of bizarre in a way because they were sort of chopped down copies. Because obviously they didn't have as much content.
What did you think? Is there any funny bugs or stories, etc., that you can think of?
See, the problem to me is bugs generally aren't funny because they're me making a mistake.
I see. Okay, right, yeah. Sorry.
And I'm very self-critical.
So
when it
yeah,
comes to
from
bugs.
my perspective, okay. How about any funny bugs that you may have seen or shared with you by internally and so on? Because I've never thought about it.
I suppose some of the funnier ones that I've made have not ever gone live. We've had the floating head, where the player model got corrupted because someone moved things along. So your player was a massive floating head, not the normal size, but your chat head size.
Oh my god, I would love to have seen that.
That was interesting.
Correct. Maybe you can tell me if I'm right or not. A chat head. Is it not a huge head?
It is.
A chat head is essentially an inflated head.
Sort of. It's got more detail, so it's got a lot more polys, so that they can animate the face. Because if you think about old school models, there's not that many polys in a player head when it's just walking around. So they have a high res, effectively, version of the head. Which is why you sometimes get a mismatch between the model that's walking around and the chat head. So if somebody's got the hair colour wrong or something like that, that's why you get those.
Oh, wow. Because I still remember this, I can't remember who showed me, but they were on the world and they spawned in a chat head and it was gigantic and I was like,
yes they are.
It's actually terrifying because their camera was zoomed in so much that it actually caught the front of their face.
Zoom! Is that on the list?
Zoom?
I did Zoom in old school.
You did Zoom?
Yes.
How is Zoom in old school?
Complicated. Because it's not Zoom as you would think of as Zoom.
It's not just as...
It's to do with field of view and the way the camera moves as well.
Oh, so trickery then.
Yes.
Huh.
Yes, camera trickery, essentially.
Fascinating. We were around during the old Coburg. Well, I know you were around, but we were involved in the little U, the symbol.
Yeah,
the symbol.
That was quite funny. And the player who was called Null. There was a bug.
Oh, I remember.
Yes.
Yeah, there was literally. I remember
Yes.
seeing. Actually, this was in. I remember seeing this in script where literally someone had the name Null, and because the name was Null, it kind of screwed around. What did they screw
I
around
can't
with?
remember exactly what it broke, but I think it broke things like our reporting systems and other things like that. Because obviously you don't expect. Well, when you're checking for null, you don't expect a player to be called null. But yeah, that got fixed. Some of the more interesting bugs. What else can I think of?
Yeah, I don't know if we touched on it, but that old code bug. What was that like when you were there?
That one I wasn't really involved with, but I saw it from the outside, and that was interesting because it brought down worlds. So it was all hands on deck, and to try to find out what was going on. Similar to a few others that we've had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't like bugs.
No, I mean, see, like, I kind of get it now because I look at it from my perspective, and I can see, like, from my perspective, it's like, it's a bit of fun and so on and so forth. It happened, but I can see from your side, it's frustrating. Why did that happen?
What's the worst bug you've written, Shauny?
Well, I mean, the biggest one for me was like the Avatar rework update, and I didn't account for players who had a clan avatar out when the update went live, and it stopped them logging in. So it stopped them logging in for like 5-10 minutes, but it was still like, I will admit, I was like, I'm pissed off at myself. How did I not think that it would affect these and they'll stop them logging in? And yeah, it was good, fix them gone in 5-10 minutes, but this is literally as the update launches, so that already impacts the perception of it. And actually,
I've done similar bugs like that where you've either stop people logging in or stop them logging out.
Stop them logging out? Trap them? How would you stop them logging out?
There's various different things. If you delay them, for example, for so long that they can't log out. So I've done some of those as well.
Is that when it then says your account's still logged into?
Yes.
I see.
Yeah, so they may have closed their client, but their account's still logged in. So those are fun ones. Especially to try and track down, mobilizing armies bug. The day of launch. So the way instancing works in RuneScape is it effectively makes a copy of the map square in memory for you to go and play around on. And when you're done with them, it clears them up, just like player owned houses. So we have a rule that as soon as you create the instance, you teleport the player in. But that hadn't really been done with mobilizing armies. Mod 10 was relatively new at the time, and he had done it on a delayed piece of script. Now, in the whip environment where we test things, this was fine because instances weren't cleared up as quickly because there was not many players around. So it worked flawlessly. As soon as it went live, instances were disappearing, players couldn't get into the game. We were there till nearly midnight fixing that one.
Oh my lord. Matt just said he has to go to bed, so go get up in the morning. Bye bye, Matt.
I haven't got to get up in the morning.
Thank you for your one-line comments of glory as always, sir. And actually, speaking of instance system, even as recently as 2017, there were still issues with multiple instances.
Yeah.
So when Invention Batch 2 launched, so many people, they changed it. Oh no, actually, it was Invention when it was made the Invention Guild was when you go in and it generated your own instance.
Yeah.
And why it was done that way, I don't know. But either way, you can only imagine what happens when an Invention update launches. Everyone goes to Invention Guild. And the instanced version of it didn't have the new locks in them at all, so you can interact with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then the only way you could force an instance in Whip was a very unique set of quantity of items. Just like you have with the rabbit ears, with clan XP winning and so on and so forth. But yes, it was locked behind that, so that was interesting.
Hi, Colin.
Oh, in the chat, cool. What else can we talk? Crossbow and bolts we've talked about. Musicape.
Musicape. Oh yeah, that was another project I was given along with the Max Cape in Old School. So those were two of the big capes I did. Music Cape wasn't very remarkable really. It was almost a copy paste of what we did in RS3. Max Cape was more fun because I was given a little bit of creativity. So I decided to create a guy called Mac. And he gives you his cape. Only I did a little sort of a sort of course to get there, where you have to have 99 this and 99 that, and he goes on about he's this really old guy who speaks very, very tersely, in very few words, because talking is XP waste, as is bathing, as is everything else. So he keeps his nice pristine cape in his backpack because he's rather dirty.
Keep it nice and shiny and so on. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I found that rather amusing to create.
How was Wild Gothic Sleeps as a project?
I didn't work on it.
You did not?
No.
Oh, the wiki people's let me down here.
No, that was Morgana.
It's on your page.
No.
Let's have a look. Where is it? I saw it somewhere. Oh yeah, Wild Gothic Sleeps. I'm going to take an edit credit and just remove that.
Yep, no, I didn't touch that. That was Morgana.
How it goes.
I believe I was doing... When was that?
Wild Gothic Sleeps.
Yeah.
2012, I want to say.
2012. I was working on new tutorial and...
I was going to ask you about
that. RS3 graphicsy thing, and then resizable interface.
Oh, Gothic Sleeps 2008, I'm referring to the one where he dies. Spoilers. 2011, 2012.
No, he doesn't die. He's still alive in old school.
I'll add the citation afterwards. It's fine. I always do this. So anytime I do these interviews, I just edit the wiki there and then, because I always forget otherwise, and then I cite or try to cite afterwards. So you mentioned the tutorial. I don't think it's on the list you tweeted, actually, if I remember correctly.
Did I not?
I don't think so.
Learning the ropes. Yeah, it's there.
Oh, it's a quest.
Yeah,
sorry,
it was a quest.
The tutorial was a quest.
It gave you a quest point.
What?
Yes.
I did not know this.
Yes.
How was that? Essentially writing the onboarding, as it were.
That was an interesting project.
Why was it interesting?
Because I had 6 managers designing it.
6 managers?
Yes.
What?
So you can imagine the fun of feedback meetings where only 3 of them could turn up and a decision was made, and then it was overturned by the other 3 later on. So that was fun. I got to write the sort of overall story, but they designed what they wanted taught and that sort of thing, and how they wanted it done. So it was an epic 14 chapter story that you could do in any order, essentially. So you'd get these things to help out this knight who was staving off this dragon who was threatening Lumbridge, because I wanted it in Lumbridge because the whole problem with the original tutorial is the fact that, yes, you learn all your mechanics and things like that, but then it dumps you in Lumbridge, which is a completely alien environment.
So you want them to learn it in Lumbridge?
Yes, so I took a copy of Lumbridge and effectively sort of fenced them in with shenanigans, and made that my safe area, essentially, and taught them about Lumbridge.
Wow.
It was in the game for, I believe, a total of 1.5 weeks or something like that. It was something ridiculously short because I went on holiday straight after. I was called on the Friday night and told to come in on the Saturday and remove it.
By one of the 6 managers?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So that was fun.
I have nothing I have to say on that.
It didn't even finish either because I didn't get to do the last chapter.
That is literally called a knee-jerk reaction if I've ever heard of one. Wow. That's quite upsetting to hear, in a way.
It was very upsetting because
Yeah,
I worked
imagine.
on it for 9 months.
You'd worked on it for 9 months and it got
Yeah.
took out after a week and a half?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I was doing other things as well. I was.
Yeah, but even still, that's your work.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's horrendous. Wow. That's horrible. There's some really cool stuff actually you've done that I don't think people are aware of, obviously, about, unless they've seen your tweet, which is, we actually added warnings for maybe accidentally alkin items.
Oh yeah, that
value.
was one of the qual polls that went up. I did enjoy those qual polls.
What are your thoughts on quality of life in a game like RuneScape?
It's a difficult balance between making it easy-scape and fixing things which are obviously clunky. And I figured that was one that really was handy, and has saved a lot of people.
Yeah, because if you accidentally alk let's say if you're on RuneScape, you somehow occupy hat. That's Jesus. I don't want to think about that.
Party hats aren't worth that much, mate.
Well, on RuneScape, that is not old school. Oh, you're being. I see. Yeah, I should have caught that one pretty quickly. God damn it. And also, even stuff like warnings for the wilderness teleports as well.
Yeah.
It all adds up, right? These little things where they're not in the scope of things, not that big, but they are very significant. Are there any updates that didn't make it into old school that you wish had?
Fossil boss.
So you want to do a fossil island boss?
Yes.
Was it?
So there is an empty area in the Paleontology Museum, specifically for the fossil boss, and that is where the rare fossils were going to be used. I've left a full design document. I hope, I pray, at some point enough graphics time will be available to deliver my vision.
So where did it ever get to as a project?
Design.
Just design?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was cut from Fossil Island because of time.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
I mean, it fits the thematic, but I'm fighting it in the paleontology room. That's pretty cool.
Well, the idea was you build your boss.
What?
So you use the fossils to build your boss, and so you choose, for example, you might have a dragon head, and because it's a dragon head it would have a dragon fire attack, whereas you could have chosen, I don't know, a water snake head which would have a water attack.
That is incredible.
So you'd build your own boss, it would come to life in an instance and you would fight it, and it's on multiple levels. So you're crawling around the scaffolding and killing its leg and then killing its arm and then that sort of thing.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Wow. Okay, damn. That would have been awesome. Jesus. Yeah, I want that boss. In RuneScape, please. Just add it to RuneScape. Jeez, that'd be awesome.
It would be much easier to code in RuneScape. Because you have the dynamic models, we don't.
Oh, of course, yeah. You did Town Criers.
Yes, Town Criers were a project to help PMods originally. So they wanted somewhere in game where they could have the PMod rules, because PMods were having to refer. This was back in the day when you'd have an 800 by 600 monitor and that was it, and you'd have to tab out and go and look at the rules and then come back. So somewhere in game where they could see their rules, and somewhere in game where players could see, one, the rules of the game, and two, know what a PMod was.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were originally used for. And then in old school they were then used for announcing the updates, which I thought was a really awesome idea, because they're town criers. What does a town crier do but gives the news, essentially? So yeah, I'm glad with the way they evolved.
Yeah, it's nice that they still have a dynamic usage for them, because at the end of the day you will go past one. In your sessions, it's probably inevitable you will see one.
Yeah, it's another one of those little projects that I did that didn't take me that much time, that really helped with the community. And the other one that I started and never made it in was the clan leader meeting room, where clan leaders could actually open up an instance and specify different ranks that could enter from any clan.
Oh.
So all of the leaders could go in, for example, and I actually wrote a question system where you could submit a free text question and it would appear on the meeting holders interface, and they could answer it, or they could actually create a vote on it. I wrote that system.
So if you wanted to talk, that's my
cat.
That's my cat.
Hello.
So if you wanted to talk to only clan leaders for advice, you could do that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, I wish we had that. Yeah, the meow picked up on the mic. Why was clans capped to 500 and not 1,000? Someone said.
That was purely an arbitrary limit that we agreed on at engine design time, so it was actually set in the engine. It's to do with the amount of data that's thrown around, because any time any piece of clan data is changed, it gets distributed to all of the members of that clan, regardless of what world they're on.
And even if they're online or offline, because when they come online, they're going to get it as well.
Yep.
And yeah, also, just to give you an idea, until 2018, when you opened up clan settings, which is where you'd see all the members, their icon.
Oh god, yeah, that was broken, wasn't it?
That
Horribly
was really, that was at the point of breaking with full clans completely because of the amount of data it had to process.
That was another project I had on the back burner whilst I was in old school. I was trying to get done.
And me,
was the optimization
you
of
and
that.
Ian did that one.
Yeah.
Yay. I actually enjoyed that a lot.
Good.
Because it made it so much better. It was so
Yeah,
nice.
I was sitting there desperately, trying to do it in my spare time, and it's like, I don't have got time to do this.
Yeah, of course. You only have so many hours in the day, and,
Yeah.
you have time for yourself and all that stuff. Oh, Pickle likes you. That's awesome.
I am a cat person.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, boy. Oh, hello. Jumping up. So, what else I want to mention? We've gone for achievement diaries, gone for the logs, tether warnings. Let's go through your reworked Hesidius on your list here.
Yes. What did it actually say?
Hesidius rework. Is that true what it says?
Oh, yes. So there was a graphic redesign done of Hesidius House, and I was the content support for that. Incidentally, if you're getting any strange noises on the mic, it's the cat's tail.
So someone Colin.
Yeah, so that was just literally going through, looking at what had been changed graphically and appropriately changing the content. So when some quest said that building was in the east over there and it had been moved to the north, then changing the dialogue.
Making it so it makes sense. So Colin, Sawyer, and Chad just said, Maz and Shauny, I see where you sat on the office on Friday just gone. I'm surprised was that pointed out to you?
Is there like little statues in our place?
Yeah, I'm confused because I know that there was people who went to Jagex on Friday, who had a tour there, but I'm a little confused as to how they knew where we sat. That's weird to me, especially that we left 4 months ago.
Yeah, I would have thought things would have been replaced by now.
I asked in private.
Oh, right,
okay.
fair enough.
Oh, yeah, sure, I guess. Maz, we just wanted to know that your work is very appreciated, all the nice performance improvements, skill offense, etc. That's nice.
Thank you.
How was doing challenge mode for Chambers of Xeric?
Oh, that was quite a challenge.
Nice. Why was it a challenge?
Because of the way that the instancing system had been written. Now, kudos to Ash. He created an awesome system which could do random rooms. I had to make it do non-random rooms. And with an extra level. So that was fun. That took me quite a while to... He also encoded the data in what I term special Ash ways. Which is really efficient, but not very readable. So it took me a while to decode what he was actually doing, and once I decoded it then I could work on actually rewriting the system to do what I needed it to do in challenge mode. Other than that, most of it was just changing numbers.
Okay.
Just if you're in challenge mode, then add 25% to this number and that sort of thing. And the bosses, the boss pets were awesome with that. I really do enjoy
doing
doing
like
the
1,000,
boss
2,000, 3,000, isn't it? Oh, was
pets. That's the cape. That's the cape.
Yes.
No, but the boss pets were fun because we literally scaled. So some pets you can get away with taking the boss model, scaling it down, and just using the same animations. So I tried that with some of them. Some of them it worked fine. Some of them it didn't. So Tecton has quite a lumbering sort of walk cycle, and it really did not look good on a little pet. So I doubled its speed, and he now toddles. So it's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, things like that. So little tweaks that I could do without graphics time, essentially.
That's a thought, actually. Now I don't even thought about it. How did it feel going back to using the old version of those tools when you went back to old school?
Like coming home.
Really?
Yeah. Our pack times are 30 seconds. Our server boot in 6 seconds. It's, using the old tools can sometimes be clunky. They still have bugs. But because the language isn't that complex, the tools aren't that complex. So I could quite happily do some of the modelling. So I did some of the modelling for things like the Relica fence shortcut. I did the modelling for that. I did the modelling for some of the Scotizo stuff, the totems. And of course I did the Christmas hats, the boss hats. That was some of the best. I really
Oh
enjoyed
yeah,
doing
putting a
that.
hat on the bosses.
Yeah, I
for
really
Christmas,
enjoyed doing that. So every Christmas, I'd aim to do a few more bosses. I was hoping that I would get up to sort of so every boss had a different hat.
Damn it.
I did like Zulrah. Every iteration of Zulrah has a different hat. So when it goes down, then comes back up, and they have a different hat.
Oh man. Pet Rock 2.
Oh yeah, I did Pet Rock. So quite amusingly, the Pet Rock's config name is actually VT_useless_rock.
It's called Useless Rock.
Because it had no purpose whatsoever. It literally did nothing.
What did VT stand for?
Viking Trials.
I see. Oh yeah, of course it's from Vikings.
Yeah. Yes.
Of course, that makes sense.
So I wanted to give it a use. It was a silly idea. And at the time, silly ideas were the thing to do.
And they still, in my opinion, to an extent, should be things to do.
Yeah.
Because I think...
Do you play fetch with your Pet Rock?
No, but I really should.
You should. Don't neglect your Pet Rock.
But this is what I mean. It's like, it's all, like, to me, it feels all very serious nowadays. It's very, very serious, very serious, very serious.
I think that's one of the things I liked about going to old school.
Right.
It captured a bit more of the silliness that is RuneScape.
And there was a recent quest just released on RuneScape that was quite goofy and funny, and that's like stuff I look forward to. Like to me, Gala Quest for me is one of my most favorite quests in RuneScape, just because it's the Gala Quest and the way it was done, like was AJ's writing and dialogue, and it was just awesome. Enjoyed it so much.
It did make me sad with the was it a quest recently where you had to boil your pet rock? No, did you boil it or did you throw it down a well? Something like that.
Oh.
That made me sad.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You had to boil
the pet rock.
Who boils pet rocks? Come on, if you did that, then you're a bad person.
Forever exiles. Do you really like? I'm just gonna point this out. We've managed to go through like a lot of we've not really gone through NPCs. Like we've gone through some NPCs. We've actually covered a lot, which is great. You've actually reworked a couple of quests. We kind of haven't touched upon quest reworks you've done. Dig site.
Dig site was fun to do. So, Mod Ian, not Ian Gow, but Mod Ian, who's now in the music department.
Third employee ever hired.
Yes, indeed. He originally wrote that quest. Way back when the language was... In fact, he wrote it in Classic, I believe. And it was then translated into RS2. But we went through a phase where we were redoing a lot of quests. In fact, it was called the Quest Improvement Project, QIP. I was actually part of the administration of it, so I had to sort of give an estimates as to how long it would take to rework a quest, how many people it impacted, and all that kind of thing. So to decide what we would do and when. Your cat, by the way, is awesome.
Thank you.
Yes. Cat is currently on the lap, having strokes and looking thoroughly smug.
Yeah, he's very happy right now. He's just like, yep, I'm getting all the attention. Like, I'm a happy cat.
But yes, basically we identified things in quests which were confusing. So in the dig site quest, it was very confusing to have 3 different samples that all looked exactly the same but were actually different for the quest. So I turned it into 3 different things. One of them being a teddy bear.
Gosh.
Which, at the time, another thing we did with quips was clear up old useless quest equipment at the end. So I deleted the teddy bear. The teddy bear no longer had any use, therefore it was deleted. This made players very unhappy. So I made
their teddy bear.
I know. So I made it so that they can go back and pickpocket it from the girl. Nice. Which is mean. You're taking her teddy bear, but you get a teddy bear.
But yeah, it satisfies them. They get it back. Oh dear me. There's also how's Black Knight's Fortress as a quest rework?
Black Knight's Fortress was the only thing I really remember from Black Knight's Fortress was trying to get that cabbage to go on the right path to go through the hole. That's the only thing I really remember. It took me so long.
How is it? Actually, that's a good question. Let's segue very quickly. How is it writing script to tell an NPC, for example, to go do a thing?
That depends upon the situation. If you are the only person using that NPC, so you're in an instance, for example, then you can quite happily tell NPCs to do anything. That's not a problem. The problem comes when you've got multiple players kicking off this script at the same time. Then it really doesn't work.
Is this what happened in this case?
No. The cabbage was actually an object, and it was thrown just like an arrow essentially, but it was getting the parabola right, so it didn't look too weird, and making it go down through the hole. But that's the only thing I really remember from that rework is hours upon hours of changing a number, repacking, rebooting the game, checking the animation.
That sounds fun. Alright, let's go to quests you have actually done or been a part of more
There's
directly.
only 2 of them.
That's correct. And the second one is Back to My Roots.
Indeed.
How was that?
That was kind of cool. So we had a phase again of trying to tie up quest endings, as it were. So I was given the task of trying to tie in completely forgotten the name of the quest that happens in that mansion in Ardoyne, where the Jade Vine is. No, it's not a murder mystery.
Someone
will
Chat will
know.
come to the save. It's fine.
Come on, chat.
I'll
your
I'll
thing.
call it.
So that quest and hand in the sand stuff. So there you go, Hazel Cult. Yes, that one. So I kind of put together this weird story and sort of took influences from real life as well. So the Jade Vine itself exists. There is one in the Cambridge Botanical Gardens, and I actually included its Latin name in the game because it actually includes the words macro and bot.
Nice.
But I just love the idea of a sentient plant because, so many PVM bosses are just sort of vaguely humanoid thing or vaguely animal-like thing that are attacking you, and there wasn't really that much in the way of plants apart from the strange vine, which I had the idea was actually part of the Jade Vine as well because it goes all over the world, is the idea. Anyway, that was one random idea I had. So yeah, the idea was to tie quests together ultimately, and I just love the fact that I managed to almost finish off Hand in the Sand. There's still only 1 foot in the grave.
I don't even need to say anything to that, really. So there was also other quests that you didn't essentially start or create, but you were involved in helping with.
Oh yes, lots of those.
Recipe for Disaster.
Oh yes, back in the day when we were all in one little room, the content team that is, and we were coming close to the 100th quest, and they were like, well, it would be really nice to do a collaborative thing where we all do a bit. It wasn't mandatory or anything like that. It was, if you want to, you can contribute a bit to this quest. So the overall story was, I can't exactly remember if it was written by James or Titan, one of the two. But then we were allowed to add on our own bit for the ingredients, and I did the dwarf bit with the rock cake. And the rock cake has since made its name in the game.
Yes.
I do miss the days where it could actually kill you though.
Oh yeah, of course, because you bit a bite on it and you take damage.
Yep. Well, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think you would take a lot of damage, let alone for the fact you want to bite down on a rock. And then Monkey Madness 2 and the Agility Maze.
Yes. So that was fun. So when that was being created, that quest just sort of got bigger and bigger. There was more and more and more of it. So more and more devs got pulled in essentially, and I was asked to create the maze, which actually has multiple different ways through it. And there's actually a route which we cut off because we didn't have time to test it, which was the thieving route, where you actually have to thieve keys and things like that, and pick locks and do that sort of thing. But there wasn't enough time to finish it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So there are multiple ways through that maze, and multiple different. I got to write. It was really good because I got to take existing agility code for things like rope swings and ledges and things like that, and write it in a generic manner, so that I could put down the locations in any orientation and it would work. and that's since been reused by awful lot of agility stuff. So it wasn't just for that quest; it was stuff that we could then use in the future as well.
Nice. So I'm trying to look this like okay. We're coming up on almost 3 hours. We have covered a lot of systems, a lot of NPCs, items, areas, events, quest reworks, quests, even some mini games. Actually, we haven't touched on D&Ds. I'll choose.
D&Ds, familiarization, and Shattered Heart.
How are they to do?
I really enjoyed them.
Oh, okay.
Because I love the whole concept of D&Ds for D&D's sake, not the XP's sake, but the breaking up of that monotony.
I'm glad you mentioned about the whole XP versus, because there's a question I'm going to ask towards the end, which obviously, because I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
The original purpose of D&Ds was not XP. It was purely break the monotony.
Add a bit of variety.
Yes, add a bit of variety. Hence why you have a significantly worse chance of getting your second rock if you carry on with the same skill after getting your first rock.
Is that confirmed? Is that ever been said?
Absolutely 100%. I said that myself on Twitter.
Okay, right. I did not know that.
So it actually makes you go and do some variety.
Wow, I didn't know that. I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I haven't invested time into getting rocks because I actually did not know that. Yeah. Makes sense though.
So as soon as you get a rock, change skill.
Nice. Wow. So essentially, okay. That makes a lot of sense.
And it was actually, at the time it was written, I don't know whether it's still true, but it was the longest piece of content to actually complete because you did the statue in your player house.
Well, I mean, technically, you could argue based on RNG requirements that Ark Islands could be the longest because you're waiting to get the port stuff done, etc. But I would say, without a shadow, if we're talking guaranteed time to complete, it is still the longest. And if I remember correctly, you inbox. I can't remember where I saw this, but I remember you inboxing people.
Yes, I believe it was the first 10 to actually do it.
And you actually inboxed them personally.
Yeah, yes.
Which I thought was awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's a hell of. I think it was 30 weeks, either 28 or 30 weeks to complete that. So that was, and I didn't actually know it would work, because obviously there was no way of actually properly testing it without 30 weeks of time investment. So I was actually sitting and watching and waiting on when that time rolled round, 30 weeks from release. I was sitting there and waiting and, half expecting to see error messages.
Did you get the server to tell you when it was done?
Yes.
Okay, because obviously I know back then it wasn't, the analytics wasn't really...
I just outputted an error message.
Yeah, which I think is because obviously I've seen that in old school for
we do that for a lot of things
and stuff. Yeah, which is really cool. That's awesome. And then that's the D&Ds. The special Vex for TSM Citadel was also a time-limited diamond. I think only 7 clans managed to get it. Yes, it was changed. Every clan can get it because it's now called Uber Vex. The flashing particles on the Vexillum itself. Okay, right. Let's speed forward a little bit, Maz. As always, yes, no, don't have to answer any of this stuff. At the time you did POH notice boards, was it confirmed publicly you were leaving? Yes or no?
No.
So you started on POH notice boards before then?
Oh yes, yeah. That was quite a long project actually.
Okay. And I think it was amazing. Like, I think it's so cool you can go in and see house data.
Yeah.
I think that's mind-blowing.
It's something I'd wanted to do for a long time, and I'd had an idea of how to do it for a long time, but just never got the time or the priority, as it were. There was always something that was a little bit more important.
Or Stu wanted to see if you worked on any other tutorials after learning the ropes.
No, I didn't, thank God.
Oh dear. Someone said, does the chance for second strange rock go back up when you get a different skills rock?
Yes.
Okay, so you could do attack, combat, yeah. Okay.
No, you couldn't do attack,
Not
Shauny.
attack, jeez.
You could do fishing, then
Magic,
gun, woodcut, and then
I'm so good
go
at
back
this.
to fishing, and they would all have the same
Why didn't I just choose
probability.
simple ones? God damn it. What am I doing? And Stu gave you a hug.
Oh.
Amazing. Do you remember when I suggested a seed search for Seed Vault?
Yes, I do. It was actually on the original design, but I didn't get time to implement it to begin with.
Okay, so obviously it goes on saying, you know, at the end of the day, we look on it now 4 months after the fact you have left Jagex. So I'll ask the question like I've asked Matt, like I've asked Dan, and so on. Do you want to talk about the leaving? Yes or no?
No.
Fine by me. That's completely fair because there's something I want to touch on that subject actually really quickly. Is because at the end of the day, it's someone's personal life, and some of you are going to be like, oh, you know, well, no, why would they not talk about it? But it's up to them if they want to. Like, at the end of the day, that's why I do the courtesy of asking, and if they want to say no, that's completely fine. So I just want to clear that up before people start going, oh, well, why didn't you get into this, yada, 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 so on and so forth. Honestly. So, was it a 3-month leaving period or a 1-month leaving period?
3 months.
So, and that presumably because of your time at the company.
Yes.
So, you knew, based on the time you announced, 2 months. You were already 2 months into this at the time you announced.
Yeah.
So I remember correctly, you announced in early September.
Yeah.
If I remember.
About 1.5 months in.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know what more. I don't know what more I can say on it because obviously without obviously requiring to go into detail on it. But I mean, could anything have been done to keep you there?
Well, there's always things that could be done.
Yeah, I understand. It's a very open-ended question, right?
Yeah, there probably could have been.
Would you, and you'd still be there?
Yeah.
Doing the training, all that stuff that obviously you kind of fostered and did in that time. And like I said, like, you know, at the end of the day, like, I said this earlier, I think your impact forever lasting in Jagex will be the countless people that you trained, you brought up, and it will have an impact on both games as time goes on. And at the end of the day, you set them on that road to get there.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing that comes from there. And yeah, see, I mean, I don't know if there's anything. I don't know to answer that question, is like something wrong about working at Jagex, but in like I've been public about it. In my case, it was a case of, you know, I didn't get the chances I felt like I deserved, and also, you know, stuff that they did to me I was not a fan of, and it hurt me a lot. So it hurt my trust in them, and obviously that was a impact in me deciding what I did and went on from there. So I mean, you know, apart from that, obviously I think it is a shame that you're not there still, and let alone the fact that you at least didn't get the chance to celebrate 15 years of Jagex.
That was a bit of a...
Because at the time you left, you were 4 months...
that was really disappointing.
4 months away from 15 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's a shame to me, because, like, at the end of the day, like, come on, 15 years. 15 years in the company is ridiculously good. And it's a damn shame it didn't happen, let's put it that way. And in fact, I think that 15 years has literally just happened, right? Or would have just happened.
Beginning of February.
Yeah. See, that's honestly a damn shame. Beyond belief.
You're making them cry again.
Sorry?
You're making them cry again.
Well, I mean, it is. Like, you know, all I know about the situation, because you had, like, just to give you an idea, like, this is how personal Maz is, like, because it's up to her. Even not on stream, even one-to-one, Maz has not told me what has happened, because that's her decision at the end of the day, and I respect that. The only time I ever saw it or knew something was wrong was I was on the way to the kitchen to get some water, and I saw Maz walking past me looking very upset, and I was just like, what's happened, you know? And of course, you know, when you leave a job, you've been there for that long, and, you know, all the stuff you've done, you're gonna get upset.
It's not just leaving a job at that point.
It's your life, right?
You spend far more. Think about the amount of time you spend with your colleagues versus anyone else in your life.
Well, you know, I joined Jagex. I was 19. I left Jagex at the age of 25. I literally spent almost a third of my life there.
Just trying to do maths here.
6:20. No, it isn't 6:12. Okay, quarter, close to a quarter of my life there. 6 years out of 20. 6
I'm
years,
somewhere
25
between
years
a
old.
quarter and a third for me as well.
Close to a quarter of my life at Jagex, you know. Yeah, this is why I failed math, by the way. My great math, showing it yet again. But you know, like,
quick maths.
was Jagex your first job?
No.
It was not your first job.
No, the sysadmin job.
The sysadmin was an actual job. Okay, cool. So yeah,
several years in that. Can't remember how many. 4 or 5, something like that.
It's crazy. Okay, but we're not going to end it on that because there's a couple questions I want to answer or ask you based on this. You know, if you could look into the future for both RuneScape and Old School, what would you, if they were listening now, and I'll be honest with you, they probably are, because I know.
Oh, of course they are.
I know there are people at Jagex who watch these streams.
Oh, they do. Hello.
And hi, by the way. Whoever you
Ash
may
will be listening. Ash always listens to these things. Hi, Ash. We need to have a cup of tea at some point.
If you can give them, first of all, on a personal note, any advice for those there, what would you give them? And also,
see, that's really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's go with that one first.
That's really difficult. You know, if I ruled the world.
Hi, Jamie. Damn it.
Who's that?
Jamie, Orion.
Oh,
Orion.
no, not
Hi,
Orion.
Jamie.
Oh, he's here.
Amazing.
Stop listening.
But yeah, I mean, on a personal, you know, advice.
I think it'd be the obvious thing, really, is ditch MTX. If I had my way, it'd be, I suppose, to answer the question that other people have actually asked on Twitter, what would I remove from the game? MTX.
Okay.
Not bonds. I think bonds have been really, really, really good for the game.
But the whole treasure hunter, keys, etc.
Giving an advantage through real world cash.
Fair. And that's for RuneScape, presumably. What about Old School?
I would. Oh dear, this is going to be controversial. Don't focus so much on combat.
I mean,
it's about fun, not about combat. It should be about. Think about oldscape. You had silly quests. You had, you know, exploration of new areas.
I mean, it's a fascinating story because I think about it, like, you're like, I've talked to Dan, I've talked to Mackay, I've talked to Ram, and talked to Pi, but you're the person who, you know, along with Matt, you've been there for countless of years. You've seen the game and the company completely drastically change.
Yep.
And obviously, you know what it was like back then. You were there, so I can kind of understand your.
It was so much more creative because no one was having to focus on. I suppose it's the way society has gone in the last few years has been very much geared towards the instant gratification. I want my reward now. If it hasn't got a reward,
best XP.
I don't want to do it.
Agreed. And that hurts RuneScape so much. And actually, dare I say, even loot drops on. I don't play Old School. I see the occasional messaging, and I've seen people say that the drop table for Nightmare Bolts is really garbage, but in reality, it's actually a good drop table. But they're so used to the high reward drops from previous stuff that they've accustomed themselves to it.
We're our own worst enemy. We teach them. We teach them to expect the rewards.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, let me to give you an example. Player on Farm came out, and the thing they hated the most wasn't the actual content. It was the fact that they had to work to unlock the seasonalizer to unlock a music track to get their comp kit back, and they hated that content just because they were time locked from getting a music track back for their comp kit, and it's what hurt Ark Island's first release as well. And that is the whole instant gratification thing you're referring to.
I mean, I know that I have controversial opinions. I always have had. Yeah, I think it's one of the reasons that Matt actually kept me in the team was because I was the sort of balancing force, if that makes sense. Not balancing in the game design sense, but the sort of one who went, hang on.
Level-headed.
I wouldn't say I'm level-headed.
Well, in this scale.
Yeah, I quite often came up with the opposite view, as it were. Rather than toe the line and do the thing that is predictable.
What was it like back then in regards to updates? Were they just all surprises?
You mean way back when? I think we had. I think Mark did a what's coming up, but it was very general, and he would never give dates or anything like that.
Because obviously nowadays we're dominated by BTSs, we're dominated by posts
God, yes.
promising dates, and
well, kind of old school is this old school is founded around players knowing what's coming. I don't think you can change that. I think that's a good thing. I think that's the way it's gone. I do like the fact that with big updates like Zaya, like Fossil Island, and those big updates, you can actually bring some surprises. Because you could never poll everything in updates like that. It just wouldn't work. So I do like that aspect. But yeah, it was rather nice with the surprise updates back in the day, where they quite often didn't know what was coming next.
all right, what's your favourite piece of content that you've done?
God.
I have to ask
See, I hate this question because favourites for me depends upon the day of the week, depends upon the weather, depends upon whether I've eaten chocolate or not.
Maz right now.
Maz right now would say Fossil Island. There's this actual second. Next second it could be Stronghold Security or Warriors Guild or Hand in the Sand or pretty much anything I've created is a favourite for a reason, except for the spin to win button.
You created the spin to win button.
Yes.
The original Squeal of Fortune, spin to win button.
I did not design it. I coded it.
Glad you added that citation in there, just to make sure that you would. So did someone just come up to you and say?
I was given that project.
Honestly, how did you feel about it?
Very not happy.
And I presume you made that very clear.
I didn't log into the game for the next year.
Oh, so that was what set you on that break. Wow. So there we go. Now we got the answer.
Yeah, there we go.
There.
We've got the rees now. Go on, re at me. If it hadn't have been me, it would have been someone else.
Yeah, I mean, and it was inevitable, right? Someone would do it. It's just the way it is.
So I took comfort in the fact that I produced the best code I could for it. I coded it in the best way I could.
Of course, that's what you can do. When you're given that. Let's talk about you monetize RuneScape. So if we talk about future of RuneScape and old school, where do you see it?
People say the game is dying. That is not true.
You must have heard that so many times.
I have heard that so many times in the last 15 years. It is ridiculous. I can honestly say, at least in old school's case, the game is not dying. What will happen in the future will depend on what is done to the game.
Their
really
decisions will shape it, right?
Yeah. I mean, if they decide, to make radical decisions, I don't know. What's the most radical one I can think of? Taking away polls. There you go.
MTX.
Oh well, I don't. I would like to think that would never happen with old school.
Honestly, if you want my 2 cents, I because I've never really commented on it. I don't think I've never really thought about it, but I'm honestly of the opinion that the moment RuneScape is not seen as, if RuneScape ever reaches the point of it not being profitable, unfortunately, something has to take its place. And I feel like, unfortunately, in some way, shape, or form, it will happen to old school.
Well, if it does, I hope they are sensible and keep it to cosmetics. Because that's something I don't mind. As long as it doesn't get too out of hand.
How has, actually, while not related to MTX, but while we're on the topic of just general stuff for old school, obviously, old school has a very dedicated, modified client base for third-party clients.
Yes.
How is it been trying to work sometimes against the stuff they do?
It can be very frustrating, especially when you get situations like when we polled being able to move your prayers around in your interface, and it failed. And then a third-party client added it. It's like, well, what do you do in that situation?
What are your thoughts on, if I remember correctly, they added something in Fossil Island to help track...
Yeah, that annoyed me.
I thought so.
Yeah, the tracking of Herbie. Yeah, luckily they can only track it one step ahead because that's all the code it actually does.
But it's still the fact that they can... My cat fell asleep so much he fell off me.
Yes, it's leaking.
Yeah, I was just curious because obviously,
Yeah, same thing with clue scroll cheats, as it were. It's just like it takes away the point of clue scrolls for me. Again, they've turned it into the reward rather than the act.
Gotcha. Alright, as we're kind of coming towards the end, but I want to talk about your time after Jagex, because of course, there is life after Jagex.
Brains.
We're still here, 4 months later. It's weird, 'cause I keep saying it, but I just find it so bizarre that, like,
it is
I'm mind
very
blown.
bizarre.
We both left in the same month, but we both had in-game things added to us in that same month.
That is quite
for
strange,
for both games as well.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
Thank you for adding Maz, Ash.
And thank you, Shogun, Easty, and someone else, probably others I missed, for adding the Gobi mask. I think it was mostly Shogun. It's nice. Yeah.
But yes, life after Jagex.
Life after Jagex. You want to talk about what you're up to?
I can say a little bit.
Thank you, Orion. Sorry.
I helped. Oh.
Thank you. You have no idea how much that means to me. Anyway, so
helped or hindered? It's Orion.
It's Orion, yeah. Maybe a bit of both.
Yeah, probably. So what am I doing now? I am a technical trainer.
So you're still training?
I am indeed.
Amazing.
That is my entire being now, is effectively looking at highly technical systems, talking to the nerds that create them, and translating that information into understandable language.
Nerds to simple speak.
Yes, nerd to English.
Nerd to English, yeah. How? I mean, I'm not here to ask you in depth about your job, but I mean, how is the culture from Jagex, where you've been for almost 15 years, into that?
I was a bit shell shocked.
Good or bad?
Good. There are so many women around. Technical women. Having done the recruitment for Jagex, I very rarely saw a CV from someone who was obviously female. Now, of course, you can't tell sometimes, but the obviously female ones were very, very few and far between. But ratio is somewhere between 40%, 35-40%, where I am now. And it brings a whole different culture to the office. And different viewpoints, and it's nice. It's nice. The nice thing about the company I'm working for is the emphasis is on the people. So the first week I was there, I had a chap come over and talk to me and say hi and how you getting on and all that kind of thing, and just sort of general chat, and ask me what I was working on and all that kind of thing. He went away and I'm like, who's that? To the person next to me, and they're like, oh, that was the CTO.
The CTO just casually came up and...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. People are not their titles there. They are people first and foremost. The title just happens to be something they've got. So yeah, it's a complete flip.
Good.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Do you work at Valve?
No, I don't work at Valve. I'm not in the games industry anymore.
Does it feel good to be out of the games industry?
Yes. 100% yes. Yeah.
Fair. And yeah, I always like to end the streams on, what is the person up to now? Because I think it's important to realise that yes, the people who I've spoken to in these is, the majority of it is their time as Jagex, but of course there is life after Jagex.
Quite a change actually. I learned to drive.
In that time as well?
I learned to drive over the 6 months before I left. Passed my test first time, zero faults.
Nice.
I got a car the next week because I knew I would be starting the new job and I'd need the car. So new job, new car, new me.
And how's that?
Scary. There's lots of idiots on the roads. Of course, I drive perfectly,
And how's the new? I mean, I say the new Maz, but you know what I mean. How is
new Maz is much happier and healthier.
Good. That's good.
It helps that the free food at work has actually made me eat a lot healthier, despite there being lots of chocolate there. They've actually been sensible about it. All of the chocolate and treats are in cupboards.
Oh, I see.
But all the fruit is on display.
So you're not instantly... You have to go search for your chocolate.
Yes.
Not... Okay, that's good. Yeah.
Plus, I'm eating salad every lunch. Can you imagine? Green stuff.
I couldn't imagine it before. Because
No.
I've had lunch for you a few times.
Yeah.
No, I did...
Salad.
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 Fair. Oh, man. Well, obviously, I want to say, first of all, thank you for, first of all, deciding to take the time to come here to have this.
That's right.
Because we were going to just do it over, the interwebs, but Maz was like, I'll just drive here. I'm like, okay, all right, you're going to drive here, and you are more than welcome.
Otherwise you'd have my cat yowling in the background.
I mean, you did have my cat yowling for a moment.
No, she meowed. Mine yowls.
It's true. But yeah, I just want to say on a personal note, thank you for believing in me with clans, first of all, because you were...
I was very scared you would break it.
I did,
I must
for a
have,
moment.
You didn't actually break clans.
I didn't break clans,
Yeah.
and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, me too.
Especially not as an actual developer, so I'm proud of that. But yeah, no, I mean, you and only one other person who I won't mention were the ones who believed in me with clans, and that means a lot. And I was able to do some really cool stuff with that. So on a personal note, thank you for that, and also for just any randomness of stuff we may have worked on, be it the occasional Deadman event where I may have helped out in some way, and just all the other stuff in between. And also for the Chocolate Fridays you did.
Chocolate Fridays, I've made a new thing at my new company as well.
Have you carried on that tradition?
Yes, yeah, they now, I used to be coming round on a Friday. And if I don't, I get all these messages going, "Where's my chocolate?"
Sounds very familiar. Very familiar. Oh man, but seriously, it's been awesome. So on a personal note, thank you, and I'm sure I can speak on behalf of people watching this live right now on Twitch, also people watching back on YouTube, who can appreciate basically the 15 years of contributions you made, be it 9 months of player support or 14 years plus in content development on all the projects you've done. So thank you for that, and making content that I've enjoyed, and probably Winstat in particular, Hand in the Sand. Thanks for that.
I had for the longest time after Hand in the Sand, because I went in game when it released. I actually had a screenshot of the chat window where someone was saying, "I want to stab my eyes out for the puns."
I mean, without specifically saying that, the puns, I literally thought, I was like, okay, this is a pun, that's funny. There's another pun. Oh my god, the puns. Oh my god, the puns. They keep coming. I'm just like, oh my god,
Was
I can't
there a line
defend
without
them.
a pun? I can't remember. I don't think there was.
You're joking me.
No,
Was it
there's
literally? I
something
mean, that's how
stupid like that.
you have to look back on the transcript.
There's even more puns in the dialogue when you do the quest wrong. Because people don't usually do the quest wrong, do they? Lose things and that sort of thing. There's even more dialogue, more puns there.
And if you Maz does have social, actually.
Oh yeah, I'm Squirreled Maz on Twitter.
Let me pop that in the chat. So if you don't follow her on Twitter, you can do so here for all of her adventures that she is up to.
I'm still involved in reaching out to women in tech, and I went to Oxfest over the weekend to see if we could get some more female engineers and data scientists. So that was fun.
Awesome. And what else? What was I going to say? Oh, and yeah, like just going back to the, obviously on a personal note for me, it's like, I think I said this earlier, your impact has been defined as a legacy just for the training. The people you've trained, I'm sure, will still be at that company in many, many, many years to come.
Not just that company.
And
some of them have moved on to do it. Like I said, I mentioned one of the animators who went on to work at some quite prestigious places. Those people who I've influenced and helped and sometimes started their career, as it were, will go on to bigger and better things.
Feel free to ask one more question about clans quickly if you can. By all means, crack on.
Can I give a shout out?
Of course you
Because
can.
none of this happened alone. This wasn't just me sitting at a computer on my own. There was lots and lots of people at Jagex who I still regard as friends. Some of them I still get to keep in contact with through Paul Gower's gaming evenings and things like that. Some of them I haven't spoke to in a while. Hello. I will try and make an effort to get to one of the beer Fridays and give chocolate out like I sometimes do.
There
we go. Someone's come up with the mods who did clans before.
Emily and
MMH.
Yeah. Also, it doesn't take 1 year to take away the XP from clan members on the website. It's actually, it never updates unless someone presses the button.
Yep.
Someone has literally would have just pressed that button to refresh the XP on clan high scores.
That's true.
That is what's happened. It does not take out the members who leave your clan. Well, it takes out the members who leave your clan, doesn't take away the XP.
Yep.
So that'll be why. But yeah, I think it's been awesome, and I got a text from Ash, by the way.
Did you?
In relation to what we discussed earlier about that. He said if you can, he would love to, and the travel back.
Awesome.
So that's offers there as well if you want to. But as
I might be here again then.
Might be here on Wednesday. Might pop by. Why not? So yeah, next up on this on the streaming is on Wednesday. I'll be talking to Ash, which is literally going to consist of putting on a webcam. He's going to be here with me in this room.
I do hope you've got Earl Grey tea.
I don't think we have Earl Grey.
I think you need to get Earl Grey tea.
I need to text him and actually ask, is there anything he wants me to get him?
Earl Grey
That's
tea.
a great question. Yeah, I'll give him a text and be like, is there anything I can get you?
Earl Grey tea and a kebab, knowing Ash.
Oh, I could do with a kebab, actually. Here we are on webcam, just talking, just eating our kebabs. Perfect. Don't change the mic setup. Okay, I'll leave the microphone here. That's not a problem. That I can do that. But yeah, I'll be talking to Ash. We'll just have a webcam on, and we're gonna let Ash tell all the stories he wants to.
Yeah, you can just go and do something. We can go and play a game or something.
Football game downstairs.
Just leave Ash here talking to the mic, because that would be, yeah.
And my wife was like, because obviously I said, you could be on Wednesday. And she was like, oh, I'd love to have some adult conversation for once. So yeah, there you go. You might have that.
Adults? She met me.
She's about to in a minute. But yeah, thank you all so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Obviously, Maz, thank you so much for this.
All right.
3.5 hours, give or take. Hopefully you've all enjoyed it, as always. Let me know what you think. Give out all the thanks to Maz for taking the time to do this. Next up is Ash on Wednesday, then on Saturday for Game Blast, I'm going to be interviewing Mod Ryan as well.
Oh god, is it Game Blast already?
Yeah, it's
that
Game
comes
Blast.
around quick, doesn't it?
It is. So
I remember frantically crocheting party hats.
Oh, yes, I remember them. So yeah, it was just going to be a stream of Ryan on Saturday, but as it takes place during Game Blast, we may as well make it, give the opportunity to, hopefully have people donate towards Game Blast and special effects. So, have that opportunity. But yeah, apart from that, it's been awesome. So, have yourselves an absolutely wonderful night, day, wherever you may be. Thank you all for watching, and again, thank you, Maz.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Take care, everyone.